Ruby Franke and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, were arrested exactly 1 year ago today for what the two of them did to Ruby Franke's two youngest children. Let's take a look back at everything that transpired from August 30th, 2023 to today. More information is now coming out about Ruby Franke and her children. It was their 12-year-old son, Russell, who ended up climbing out a window at Ruby's business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt's home. He went to a neighbor's house saying that he was thirsty, that he was afraid and wanted to call the police. And they noticed at the time that he had duct tape around his legs and deep lacerations from being tied with ropes. When the police arrived at the home, Russell told them that his 10-year-old sister also had duct tape around her ankles and wrists, although he wouldn't tell them why. And he said his other two sisters were in the home as well. Apparently, Ruby and her 4 children had been staying at her business partner Jodi's home. They had just done a video in the basement of Jodi's home proving that they both were there and knew of the issue. The Franke's oldest daughter, Sherry, had posted on her Instagram that she is no longer in contact with her family. She posted after her mother was arrested that she was glad that it was about time and that now the children are safe. It is unknown right now where their oldest son, Chad, is. However, it is believed that he has moved out as he is 18 now. And it's also unknown if the Frankes are still together. Kevin, of course, is her husband. We are not sure where he is, but he was involved in the cult website that Jodi and Ruby had been running. Kevin's attorney has spoken with Page 6 and relayed a statement apparently from Kevin stating that his urgent focus right now is simply to keep his children together under his fatherly care. However, the 4 children are not with Kevin. They are currently in protective custody with DCFS. Let's take a look at some clips of how Ruby Franke treated her family over the years. And remember, these clips were when she had a camera rolling for her show 8 Passengers on YouTube. We don't know what the life of these children was like behind closed doors. Let's first listen to how Ruby Franke speaks about herself when she's on her podcast with Jodi Hildebrandt.
I was a hugely disconnected, selfish, aggressive, neglectful mother. Entitled. I wanted my kids to be happy, which AKA translated into, I want my kids to get off my back. Because I want to do what I want to do. I want to be able to go to Target. I want to be able to shop. I want to be able to have a moment of silence where I can just think. It was all about me.
She also addressed on the podcast her reasons why she shut down her YouTube channel. This is what she had to say.
You wonder where I've been on my vlogs. You wonder why I left YouTube. It's to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in my home long enough to do it, and I'm not going to lose.
There are numerous clips on our 8 Passenger show as well with Ruby Franke withholding food from her children or talking about it like food is a privilege.
You're torturing him. Stop it. I know you're not, but it looks like you are. Hey, Russell. I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat.
I find a lot really disturbing in this next clip. This clip is of her youngest, Eve, when she's in school. She's about 5 or 6 years old. The teacher contacts Ruby saying that Eve has no lunch. And this is what Ruby says.
I just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
This next clip is 12-year-old Russell, who is the one who actually climbed out of Jodi Hildebrandt's home and went to a neighbor saying he was hungry, thirsty, and had the duct tape and rope burns and lacerations. Russell in this clip is yelling in the background saying that there's no food in his home.
There's nothing to eat?
Yeah, I need to go to the store. Stop. Just stop.
It's true.
Just stop. No, that is not true.
In one episode of 8 Passengers, Chad and Ruby are sitting down having a conversation, and they're talking about the fact that Chad had his bedroom taken from him for 7 months. He ended up having to sleep on a beanbag chair, and it was all because he played a prank on his younger brother, Russell. In this next clip, Chad is actually having a conversation and saying that he has no clothes left because his mother got mad and donated them to charity.
Look, when I went to Anasazi, Mom got mad and there were a ton of clothes on my floor, so she donated all the clothes that were on the floor. So I came home to like 3 pairs of pants and like 5 shirts.
I want you to pay attention to Russell's face in this next clip. Russell turns around and has what I believe is a complete look of fear on his face when he realizes the mood that his mother's in. She ended up giving him a hard time because he had a pair of socks on his lawn.
I'm gonna go get dressed for football.
You're gonna have to go find your shorts. Oh, did you see the socks you threw at the side of the garden? And you are not going anywhere unless you pick up your junk. You've got crap strewn all around. No, so you see, now I'm using bad language. That's how bad of a mood I'm in. You get your socks picked up and don't you leave your stuff out anymore.
Where?
Right over there. Run and go pick them up. And then give me 10 push-ups. Put them in your pockets so you can take them down to the hamper and drop and give me 10.
1.
Put your hands straight out. They're in. They're not supposed to be out. Shape your hands forward. There you go.
Those are just a few of the controversial clips that people had an issue with on her show, 8 Passenger. As you know, Ruby Franke has been arrested. Her husband, Kevin Franke, has made a statement that he wants to keep the kids together and that that's the main priority. Everyone is asking, though, why would he get custody of the children when they were still together during all of these filmings?
This week has been nothing that I could have anticipated. I don't think any of us could have really anticipated. If you have the internet, you have seen news articles on my sister, Ruby, from the 8 Passengers. And my sisters and I, we are on the very same page. For the last 3 years, we have truly clung on to each other and offering support to one another. And I don't think any of us could have ever seen this coming. We all did as much as we could legally, and you don't know what you don't know. I do feel a little bit numb at this point. The only thing that we ultimately care about is that our nieces and nephews are safe, and they are. And that is the only thing that matters to any of us. It is going to feel weird for me to move forward. I don't have any thoughts even for myself. I don't know what I would even tell myself, let alone tell all of you. I think times like these is where it really tests your belief in God. And I know that timing is everything. And I know that they will be taken care of. I know the kids will be okay. And I know our family will be okay. And things like this happen. And somehow we each find a way to move forward. No matter what situation you're finding yourself in, the sun rises every day, the sun sets every day, and each day you move forward. That's all you can do.
Let's take a look at some more clips of Ruby Franke on her YouTube channel, 8 Passengers, and how she actually treated her family.
Here's the deal. Everything that comes into this house belongs to who? You. Belongs to me. Everything. So you don't have a cell phone. You have access to a phone.
I don't.
Chad does not have a cell phone I took from him. He has access, which benefits were withdrawn. About a year ago, maybe over a year ago, all the kids lost their phone privileges.
Ruby and Kevin caused a lot of controversy over how they discipline their children. Here's one example.
If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma, you're so bad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you gonna cut everything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama.
That was poor Eve, their youngest daughter. She's now 10. Here's a clip of her when she was just 4 years old and going to preschool.
2 days ago was preschool. Eve slept in. She's notorious for sleeping in. And she woke up and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to wake her up because every time I wake her up, she gets super grumpy and upset and I have to literally drag her and get her dressed. And she's old enough to do that herself. And she missed preschool. She slept in and she woke up and she's like, I'm ready to go to preschool. I said, you know what? Preschool's over. You slept through it. I'm sorry. And she's like, what? And I said, you need to get up and get ready if you're going to go to preschool because I'm not going to drag you out of bed.
Viewers went crazy after one episode. Ruby Franke gets on and tells everyone that she has now taken Christmas from her 2 youngest children. So Russell and Eve would not have Santa visiting them.
Laid it out very clear. And we told them that this year they are not going to be visited by Santa.
She also seemed to enjoy using food as a punishment for the kids in clips like this.
Can you give me some breakfast?
You don't need food.
Stop crying or I'm going to have you go upstairs and you won't have any breakfast.
Okay. And my kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian, but I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores.
It also became extremely evident how scared the kids were of their mother and her reactions.
Oh, did you ruin your bag?
What kind of stain is it?
All right, Julie. The camera's rolling, so I can't get that mad. It helps keep me under control.
I do it every night.
I know.
If she sees it every night, she can never sleep.
And you thought you had to sneak it past me? Oh, honey, that's okay. Are you gonna cry?
She's laughing.
Oh, honey, I'm not gonna get mad at you for that. Oh, you can bring sprinkles. Like, instead of crying, you need to use words to tell me.
Because I was scared of you because you were being so mad. You got me even more crying.
She's also been extremely vocal about the fact that her children were not welcome in her home once they turned 18 years old.
My kids are not welcome to come live with me after they're 18. I am very straightforward about that.
She had so many negative comments about that fact that she decided to try and defend herself.
One comment once explaining how I expect our children to live out on their own outside of the house after they're 18 and after they've graduated from high school. I was accused of abuse. It's like, it's abuse to expect your children to be responsible.
To grow up and be productive adults.
You guys, it's crazy, ridiculous how people are so scared of responsibility. It really does freak me out just a little bit. It's where the entitlement has come in, and so many parents are scared to raise their teenage kids. So many parents are scared of their kids. Do not be scared of your kids.
They apparently didn't want to deal with their second oldest child anymore, Chad, and they shipped him off to a wilderness camp.
Chad today has just entered the Anasazi Foundation Wilderness Therapy Program, where he's going to spend the next 8 to 10 weeks living in the
Anasazi Desert.
the desert mountains of Arizona. And he'll be with counselors and other youth that are trying to figure some things out. And it's reached a point where Chad needs to develop some very basic maturity and skills that he's going to need as an adult. And
This is a chance for like a reset, like a start over, like a do-over, like a fresh beginning.
yeah. So the idea is with wilderness therapy is if you can survive with these peers in the wilderness with nothing more than the clothes on your back and a couple of field supplies, then there's nothing in this world that you can't tackle.
They do not sleep in tents. They sleep on the bare ground, and
whatever shelter they can
or
make.
if they can make a shelter, they can sleep in the shelter they make.
Kevin Franke's attorney has done an interview with News Nation, and he's claiming that his client had nothing to do with the alleged abuse. In the interview, Randy Kester shared that apparently Ruby Franke had taken her children out of county several hours away to Jodi Hildebrand's home. Apparently, Kevin had not seen the children all summer. He says that if Kevin had have known of the abuse, that he would have been all over it. Kester shared in the interview that there's some sort of agreement between Ruby and Kevin stating that they won't talk badly about each other, so he wasn't able to say much about the allegations, but he did share, if the allegations are true, my client has never supported, condoned, or even acted in a physical way towards these kids. He's a good dad, he's a very humble guy, and he needs to get these kids back to be able to kind of get them out of the media and get their lives back to normal. That's his objective. Ruby Franke has officially been charged today with 6 felony counts of child abuse for what she did to her children. Each felony count she's been charged with can carry up to a 15-year sentence, as well as a $10,000 fine. Her business partner, Jodi Hildebrand, has also been charged with all 6 counts. The 2 victims in this situation are Ruby's 2 children, her youngest daughter, Eve, who is 10 years old, and her son, Russell, who is 12. Ruby and Jodi are both being accused of either causing or permitting serious physical harm to the kids. There's 3 different ways that they're being charged. The first is a combination of multiple physical injuries or torture. The second is starvation or malnutrition that jeopardizes life. And the third is causing serious emotional harm. Ruby Franke is scheduled to appear in court for the first time on Friday. According to the Utah court's website, it looks like the court session is going to be at 1:30 p.m. Of course, that's Utah time, some Mountain time. And it appears that it's going to be a virtual hearing. The call I'm about to play for you is extremely disturbing. This is the 911 call from the morning that Russell Franke escaped from Jodi Hildebrand's home and from what his mother, Ruby Franke, had been doing to him. This is between the 911 dispatch operator and the neighbor of the home Russell arrived at that morning.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay.
And he asked us to call the police.
What's
so
his
he's
name?
very afraid. He's 12 years old.
Are the neighbors out of their home, or is anybody looking for them that you can see?
No. Our homes are far enough away. I'm not sure. How did you get out of the house?
Porch. He went out.
He says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jodi Hildebrand, and she lives 2 doors up the street.
Out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart.
Yeah, out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart, so he walked just under the block to get to our house. He rang my doorbell and asked me to call the police, but he's very thirsty and...
Need an ambulance?
I don't think he needs an ambulance. I'll let the cops decide that, but his ankles are taped up and he won't tell us why.
Okay.
But he has duct tape around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around them. I think there's a good chance he's been... Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... He needs... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Okay. Let's get the paramedics headed over that way, okay?
Oh, that's a good idea, too.
Has he told you where his mom or dad are?
Haven't asked him that. You know where your mommy and...
I really got you food.
Yeah, I'm sure that doesn't matter, son. Do you know where your mom and dad are?
Well, actually, I don't know where my mom is, but I do know where my dad is. He's not anywhere here. No. Nowhere here.
Okay. No, he doesn't seem to. He says he knows where his mom is, but...
he doesn't know where his dad is.
That's correct.
I do know where my dad is.
Is his mom home?
He doesn't live.
He just says he doesn't live around here.
Is his mom
we're
in
getting...
this area?
Is your mom around here? Have you seen her lately?
No,
He doesn't know where she is right now.
Does he know his mom's name?
What's your mom's name? Ruby Frankie. Ruby Frankie is his mom's name.
Okay. How do you spell the last name?
F-R-A-N-K-E.
F-R-A-N-K-E.
Okay. And does she live in the area?
No, I'm not sure where she lives. He's trying to help us, but he's...
That's okay. We don't want to stress him out too much. The officers will go over all these questions with him anyway. I just want to stay on the phone with you until we get some help, okay?
Yeah.
Can you ask him if any other children were in the home he came from?
Okay. Was there any other kids up at Jodi's house? Anybody else? 10 and 14, and they're still at this house.
Are they tied up as well?
What's the deal with? Are they being held? Do they have wounds on them as well?
Nothing bad going on with us.
Okay.
It's just
Okay. So they're able to walk around the house and everything. Well, okay. He says everything's fine with them. He says what's happened to him is his fault.
That's not a problem. That's sad to hear. They're coming to you as quick as they can, okay?
Okay,
You're
yeah.
doing really well.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure.
He's fine. I've got him sitting here. My wife, he got him water and giving him something to eat because he's hungry, and I think the young man, he's hearing his stocking feet. So he escaped. You did good. Enjoy that banana, okay? Is Jodi up there right now?
Yes.
Okay. Jodi Hildebrand is up there right now.
Okay.
So she may come looking for him here soon, but I think we need the cops here as soon as possible.
I'm just asking where he is now.
Yeah, she's a bad lady. We didn't realize how bad.
Does he have anything with him?
No, he's wearing a long sleeve shirt and shorts, and it's way too big for him.
Can you tell me what color the shirt and shorts are?
Okay, the ambulance is here.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll let you go then. You did a great job.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Ruby Frankie appeared in court yesterday over custody hearing for her 4 children, and what she said was shocking, to say the least. Ruby Frankie attended the hearing through a video call as she is in jail right now. Her husband, Kevin, was also there sitting with his lawyer, and apparently their daughter, Sherry, may also have been in attendance. Ruby, unfortunately, threw both of her youngest children under the bus. She basically said that the two of them have been inappropriate with one another, and that apparently she's claiming that Russell, her youngest son, was also inappropriate with at least 20 other children. She says it was neighbors and cousins, although there have been absolutely no accusations from anyone other than Ruby. Now, of course, Jodi Hildebrand's niece has also come forward, stating that Jodi Hildebrand had also accused her niece of the same situations. Because Ruby made these accusations, however, the judge had to deem Russell unfit to be in a home with other children, which means they are now in custody of DCFS, the 4 youngest children. They are now not going to be able to be together. Russell will not be able to be with his other siblings or any other children in whatever home he's placed for temporary custody. Let's take a look at some more clips of how the Frankie family treated their children. And let's start off with how they spoke about Russell. Remember, just the other day, Ruby Frankie said some horrible things about Russell during a custody hearing. Well, this is how they spoke about him on camera.
Russell is incredibly mature for his age. His ability to empathize with other people and to connect with them at the age of 10 is incredible. He truly thinks about other people and doesn't think about himself. And he's been that way ever since he was a little kid.
Yeah, he's just born that way.
So that was Kevin Franke stressing how mature Russell is and how empathetic he is. And now here's what Ruby has to say.
I love Russell's sincerity. I don't think Russell knows how to tell a lie if he tried. He's so honest. I love his willingness to share. He's very generous. I like that he's like unapologetically himself.
I look back at when I was his age, and that was not him. I was not empathic at all, but there's just a lot of empathy.
I like how he forgives me no matter what I do.
Oh, he is very forgiving, isn't he?
This next clip is Ruby Franke trying to explain why Eve didn't get to go on their family skiing trip.
So the reason why Eve did not go skiing with us was because she left her ski coat at school. And over the Christmas break before New Year's, they took everything from the lost and found and took it to donate. And Eve said, well, that's okay. Just buy me a new one. Just buy me a new ski coat. I said, that is a very entitled attitude. And that is not how we work around here. If you lost your ski coat, you lost your privilege to go skiing.
Entitled. She was 6 years old, mistakenly forgot her ski coat at school over the winter holidays, and they would not replace her jacket, so she missed out on a family ski trip. In this next clip, this is Ruby Franke getting upset because her kids are excited for Christmas and they wanted to start drawing names on who they were going to buy presents for Christmas. She got upset that they were already excited, called it selfish, and this is what they did instead.
Yeah, so this morning the conversation went that the kids really wanted to draw names for Christmas. I insist it's too early and I don't want to be breeding thoughts of, I don't know, selfishness. So we had a thought, an idea.
Okay, so we like the idea of drawing names, but instead of drawing names for Christmas gifts, for the next 4 weeks, every Monday night, our kids are going to draw a name of a sibling, and they're going to do an act of service for that sibling sometime during the week.
Is it just me, or did you find Kevin a little too happy about drawing names for acts of service? It almost looks like he realized how miserable the kids were and he was taking joy in it. And for Ruby Franke to call it selfish that they wanted to draw names to see who they were going to buy for is ridiculous. This next clip talks about sleepovers. So in a couple of episodes on 8 Passengers, Ruby Franke and her children talk about the fact that they're not allowed to have sleepovers. She tries to explain why in one of the Connections podcasts.
What? You're saying no sleepovers now and sleepovers are distorted? What in the world? Yes, sleepovers are distorted. Here's why. I am the mother and I am responsible to know what is going on with my child. And when I send my child to sleep over at someone's home, that is really vulnerable. My child, for most of the time at that home, is going to be unconscious. They're going to be sleeping. They're not going to be awake and alert. And that naturally makes them more vulnerable. And I don't know what's going on in that home. I don't have any ability to know the reality inside that person's home. And so by me allowing my child to go over and spend the night at that home, now I am neglecting my responsibility. I have just handed it over to someone.
I think we can probably all agree that sleepovers at other people's homes would have been much more safe than having sleepovers in their own homes. This next clip is Ruby Franke, and she is trying to explain how the way she loves her children actually makes her look like a monster, but it's really a good thing.
This is what love sounds like. When you see someone hurting, you acknowledge the hurt. If your kid came to you on fire, would you say, I'm so glad you trusted me to tell me you're on fire. But if I put out the fire, that's going to really hurt and you're going to end up with scabs anyway. So I'm just going to love you where you are right now. No, you throw them on the ground and you start rolling them. You get a blanket and you start hitting the flames. And they're going to say, you're hurting me. You're beating me. You're controlling. It's like, no, dear, hold still. I'm getting the fire out. That's what a loving parent does. And because nobody will do it, it looks to the world crazy. And because they've never been loved before, it looks like I'm angry. To them, it looks like I'm controlling. It looks like I'm militant. It looks like I'm a monster. It looks like I'm mean. It looks like I'm full of hate. It looks like I'm not accepting it. Because they don't know what love looks like or sounds like.
And this last clip that I'm going to leave you with is Ruby Franke when she announced that she was leaving the 8 Passengers recordings more for the connection side of it and deciding that she's going to do some parent coaching.
I thought it would be a good idea to give you a little bit of an update, a life update, and let you know what's going on. So I have been spending more time with Connections and being a mental health educator, and I am teaching a parenting class in September.
Ruby Franke's sister Bonnie posted again to her YouTube channel, and this time she had a lot more to say.
What my family and I have gone through the last couple of weeks is the worst thing that has ever happened. I spent the first week in complete shock, where I felt my body and my mind and my emotions were completely paralyzed because of the just absolute shock. The more I learn, my feelings are turning more to anger. I am mad. I am beyond disgusted. It makes me tremble because it is unheard of. It's truly unbelievable. I cannot be fully transparent with certain aspects of this. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand how the system works. The first thing that I want to say is that we have kept quiet for 3 years on the topic of our sister Ruby and Jodi and Kevin and Connections. We did not know what they were doing because, like we said, we were cut off. My thoughts towards Ruby and Jodi and Kevin and Connections is that it was all bullcrap. I don't agree with how extreme they are on everything. I knew they were weird. I knew that they were off. That is what we kept quiet about. It wasn't until about a year ago when we were able to reconnect with Sherry. It was then that we were learning slowly bits and pieces of more. And that's where the part of behind the scenes, we did everything that we could. We did everything legally that we could do. And for those that were saying that they'd go in and bust down doors and do whatever it took to end up in jail, because from jail, I can't do anything. So I still stand by what I said, is that I did everything that I could with the knowledge that I had and within the legal rights to Ruby and Kevin. The one person that could have done something within his legal right was Kevin. We had zero contact with him. It was Kevin's job to check in on things, and he did not. So when I say that Ruby and Kevin and Jodi and Connections have been destroying our lives offline for the last 3 years, that is exactly what they've been doing. Nothing made sense of what they were saying, of what they were doing. Their actions have cast the worst light on me, on other members of our family. And I have decided that I am no longer allowing them to have any control over what I do. I didn't post because I physically couldn't. I physically could not turn my camera on. I physically could not come up with a structured thought in my mind. I felt completely out of my mind. This has hurt every single person in our family, and watching it hurt my husband makes me mad. It sounds incredibly selfish to, given all the facts, be thinking of our house, and I will not allow Ruby and Kevin and Jodi and Connections to take away one more thing. And so we wake up in the morning, we take our kids to school, and we come and we work on the house, and in the meantime and in between, we do everything that we can to be involved, but there is only so much that we're allowed to do. So you better believe that for my husband, we will push forward. We will move on. Not because it feels good in any way. It feels horrible. It feels horrible coming into the house and working on things and even thinking of anything else, all while every news outlet, every national news outlet, people coming out of the woodworks making claims that are just so beyond ridiculous that there is no comment. It is so stupid that there is no comment. 3 years ago, Ruby and Kevin cut our family off, and eventually they cut Kevin's family off as well. I'll only speak for myself, but Ruby and Kevin are not where my concern lies anymore. So it is difficult to have the blame put on us when these are not the actions of us. These are not the actions that we did. There's only one person that could have helped, and he didn't. What he was doing all that time when him and Ruby were separated is beyond me. I will not let Ruby and Kevin and Connections and Jodi take one more thing away from me. So you better believe I will continue to post. I am focused on putting one foot in front of the other. So I will continue doing what I have always done, which is putting my kids and Joel first and helping in any way that I possibly can outside of that. I am not my sister. I am not my sister's mistakes.
Ruby Frankie's sister Julie has spoken out for the first time since all of this has come out. I feel like it has a bit of a different tone than their sister Bonnie's video had yesterday. Let me know what you think in the comments, and definitely hit follow because I will be updating.
Speaking today about my sister Ruby Frankie, who was arrested a few weeks ago for child abuse. By now you probably know that. You also probably have seen my sister Bonnie's video. I've been trying to gather my thoughts for several weeks. I am not going to be a news update. I will not update you on news. I will not give all of the little nitty-gritty details. I know I don't need to sit here and defend myself. So we'll see where this goes and how much I get into. But the past few weeks have been extremely hard. Not only did all that happen with Ruby, but I had just moved to a new state, and Landon had to go back to Utah to finish up his dissertation for his degree. And so I've been settling into a new home with the kids without his help, and all of this fell down. So I literally have not had the physical or emotional capacity to address anyone, nor do I need to address anyone. But here we are. 3 years ago, Ruby, everything was great. It seemed to be fine anyway. We were a typical family. She was getting some therapy counseling because their family needed it, which I think is great. However, I think you need to get it from a great source. Read the reviews. Jodi Hildebrandt and her website or therapy style, I don't know what you want to call it, Connections, was not a great resource. And we all saw it. We all felt weird about this Jodi lady. We weren't comfortable with it. We didn't like it. We didn't like the teachings Ruby was bringing to the family function. So 3 years ago, Ruby and I hung out bottling tomatoes, and then a few weeks later, crap hit the fan and she left the family. And she didn't even call me to say, hey, you know, Julie, you're doing this and this, I don't like it, you're living your life in distortion, so I'm gonna have to take some time away from you. No, literally nothing. She did call my mom and yelled at my mom on the phone for 45 minutes and accused her of things that were not true. It was almost as if Ruby had been making up memories from her childhood. She started all of her lies back then, lying to everyone in her life, getting rid of all of her friends and family, and I literally had no contact with her. She wouldn't respond to any texts or emails over the time that I tried reaching out to her. Never got a response from her. I was very fortunate to have been able to reach out to her daughter Sherry once she was an adult, and we were able to form a really close, strong relationship, which I am grateful for. And it was then that I learned more about Ruby, and it was then that Sherry had learned about lies that had been told to her. We are in complete shock still as to what she had done, because we had no idea of what was happening. Basically, I'm here to say that I had no idea what was happening. We try and show the highs and lows of everyday family and parenting, but Ruby's topic was not supposed to be part of that content. And it was none of your business. It was nothing that we needed to talk about. However, as far as my platforms go, I do want to continue them, but the content will probably look a little bit different. So if you have been a long-time viewer and you have stuck around, thank you so much for your love and support. And if you are new to my channel, welcome.
We now have all the information from the search warrants that were done at Jodi Hildebrand's home, including information about the apparent safe room she had in the house. And apparently she was using cayenne pepper and honey to dress the children's wounds. There were 3 search warrants conducted at Jodi Hildebrand's home. 2 were on the day that Russell had escaped, and 1 was the very next day. According to one of the search warrants, officers found that the victim's mother, Ruby Franke, had left her 3 children in the care of Jodi Hildebrand. We don't know what 3 children they're referring to, but we definitely know 2 of the youngest were included. The first search warrant was conducted around 2 p.m. on August 30th, and in a statement in that search warrant, it says, upon arrival, officers found that a 12-year-old victim had duct tape around their ankles and appeared emaciated because the victim was extremely thin and weak. Medical personnel arrived and removed the duct tape and located the open wounds. The statement went on to say that the victim informed officers and medical personnel that the wounds were from the rope that was used to tie the victim to the ground. The victim informed officers that Jodi put the ropes on their ankles and wrists and that they used cayenne pepper and honey to dress the wounds. Officers conducted a full sweep of Jodi's home at this point and located another child, and of course she was reluctant to speak to officers at that time. They also identified a possible safe room in the basement that was locked. So this is why everyone has talked about the safe room. None of the children were in the safe room. It was locked, and it was unknown at the time if anyone was actually inside. At this point, the officers submitted the second search warrant. In this affidavit, they were asking for any and all items that were related to the child abuse. They were also asking for permission to enter and search the safe room to make sure no one else was in there. Officers ended up seizing tape, saran wrap, along with papers, notes, a journal, 2 bowls containing a red liquid with a metal spoon, 2 super absorbent dressings, 2 bandages with 4 white ankle socks, 3 sets of a brown and white rope, 2 handcuffs, and 3 carabiners. There was no further mention of the safe room in this. The second search warrant was signed around 5:30 on August 30th, and this one was going after all items that could be used for text messaging or communicating. So in this one, they wanted any and all cell phones, audio recordings, computers, tablets, laptops, surveillance footage, doorbell cameras, and basically anything that had to deal with their communication. According to the documents for this second search warrant, they ended up taking 3 Apple iPhones and 4 Apple MacBook computers. The third search warrant was conducted the very next day, August 31st at around 8 a.m. Apparently, detectives wanted Jodi Hildebrand's cell phone. She had apparently been in possession of it when they had made contact with her. These documents also said that the 12-year-old was taken to an area hospital. He was placed on medical hold due to deep lacerations from being tied up with rope and from his malnourishment. It also stated that a 10-year-old sibling was also determined to be malnourished by medical professionals. During the search of Jodi's home, officers apparently found 2 used medical gauze dressings near cayenne pepper and honey paste. The document did also state that Jodi Hildebrand requested a lawyer when they got there and she wouldn't speak with them. She did, however, make one statement. She told them that the 2 children should never be around other children. Ruby Franke's sister Bonnie has done another vlog on her channel talking about the situation with her sister and her sister's family.
I've filmed a lot of videos and I've been able to articulate my feelings through my videos in every situation that I've come across for the last near decade of my life, and it feels impossible to try and articulate my feelings right now, to articulate my grief. Never did I think I would be in a situation like this, because I'm very conscious of my choices, and this just goes to show you that life will get you whether you make good choices or not. And it's really difficult when others hurt you, when others hurt the people you love. and you have no control over it. This is a new media story, so everyone is just running with our tragedy, most of the time out of context and just tearing us down. I would say the most common comment that I got was, why was I making the video about me? Well, if you listen to the video, I said exactly that I was only going to speak from my perspective and how it was affecting me, and because I cannot and will not speak about the real victims, but if you're human, you know who the real victims are, and that is truly where my heartache stems from and who my heart aches for. And I just feel like me coming on here fighting or defending myself, it will not do any benefit to me or my situation. This is a pain that I have never felt before. I am going to hold my head up high, even while my heart is breaking, even though I am completely crushed and completely saddened by the entire situation and for my entire family unit.
I've put together another clip of how Ruby Frankie and her husband Kevin treated their children and how they disciplined. The first clip I'm going to show you, however, is an introduction to Ruby Frankie and her siblings.
We're going to start with the oldest. We'll work our way to the youngest. Your name and how old you are, I think, is a good start.
Okay, I am Ruby. I am the oldest, and I think I'm 33. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I was hoping that you'd say definitely, because I was like, oh, this is easy. I'll just subtract 2 from you.
I'm pretty sure it's 33.
Okay, that means I'm 31.
What's your name?
Bo Griffiths.
He's Bobo. Bo Chad. I'm Bonnie. I am the middle, and I am 30 on Thursday. Happy birthday, Bonnie.
Happy birthday, Bonnie.
I'm Julie. I'm number 4 of 5, and I am 27 years old. Yeah, and I am, obviously you know, because you are on my channel, I am Ellie, and I am 24.
In this next clip, the kids have left items around the home. Ruby went around with the garbage bag, collected it all up, and then she and Kevin informed the kids that they would have to buy back their own items. Watch Chad's expression when she says,
so you're all like, what, I have your attention now? Is that it? You're all gonna listen? If you have something in the bag that you would like out, you can pay cash for it. So you learn the value of your items. Or you can give what? Dad, I'll let you take the conversation from here.
You can do an equivalent value chore to get it back.
What's it?
This next clip is Ruby Frankie talking to her kids the day before school starts and laying down all her rules she has for the kids before school starts. Pay attention to the end of the clip, however, and when we see her youngest child get out of bed.
And when you come in, I expect you to be washed, your hair fixed,
Dried and put away.
and dressed, and your bed's made. So if you can do all of that in 10 minutes, awesome. If it takes you an hour because you want to take a long hot bath, then get up earlier. But you need to be in the kitchen, ready.
As Eve is upstairs sleeping.
As Eve's upstairs sleeping. It's going to be a big adjustment for Eve. She's our biggest sleeper-inner.
She, like, an alarm clock, she won't wake her up. Like, we physically have to, like, go.
She's so, it's like she's 17. And she just wants to sleep and sleep and sleep. Oh, Eve! Speaking of Eve, good morning. I made you eggs and pancakes.
Good morning, sweetheart.
How are you?
This last clip is when their youngest daughter got in trouble at school for apparently hurting their youngest son. Take a look at how Ruby treats her during this.
Push you?
No.
I kick you?
No.
What if you're in my way and I want to kick you? What happens?
Well, did you know somebody was in my way in mine, and then they kicked me and stomped?
Well, did you know that Russell was in your way today and you hurt him so badly he had to come home?
Eve, everybody has a space around them that is their boundary.
and you can't go past it because you can hurt them.
What if I took my hand and I hit you like that? Would that be crossing the boundary? Yeah.
Is that okay to do?
Is that okay? But what if I really am in a hurry and I just don't like you being there? I have a really, really good reason for just getting in your boundary.
You can't do that. Well, if you do that, that's mean.
Mm-hmm. But why do you do that to other people?
I'm glad to hear you're sorry.
This clip of Ruby Franke shows clearly how she treated her 2 younger children worse than she treated the other 4. I find this extremely difficult to watch. As a mother, as a human, she took Christmas from her 2 youngest children while they had to watch the other 4 have Santa visit and open their gifts. And instead, she and Kevin gave her 2 youngest the gift of truth because they're so selfish.
Knowing people these days, I don't know if people are gonna, how they're gonna respond. So Kevin and I, we have 6 children. The 2 youngest are showing long patterns of selfishness. They have been showing, through their choices, their unwillingness to repent, their unwillingness to feel sorrow over some pretty egregious choices that they've made. So Kevin and I have decided that we are going to give the gift of truth to them this year for Christmas. We are going to give them the gift of boundaries, and we're going to give them the gift of repentance. So we sat down with them, and we told these 2 what our expectations were again, and we let them know how deeply sorrowful we've been because of the choices that they've been making, and how it's affected their teachers at school. It's affected their peers. And we just laid it out very clear. And we told them that this year they are not going to be visited by Santa. Christmas morning, their 4 older siblings will be getting Christmas presents to open, and that they will have the gift of love from their dad and I. So up until now, I was really hoping that keeping them home from school and wiping the floorboards would really bring pain. Oh my gosh, I really want to change this behavior that I've been exhibiting. And it wasn't painful for them. They're like, oh yay, we get to stay home from school and clean floorboards. This is kind of fun. It's so, they've had these visceral experiences, and they haven't affected them. It's because they're so numb. And so the more numb your child is, the greater experience, the bigger the outcome. They need to wake them up. You're not going to push a boulder with just your hands. You need some real leverage. And the biggest leverage that a little child has is probably Santa Claus. And so I expressed to them that I love your soul more than anything in this world. And I literally would do anything to invite you into repentance. And I know parents say that. I would do anything for my kid. But really, what I think most parents are saying is, I would give anything to you if I would pay any price monetarily. I don't know how many parents are actually willing to put any boundary in place that would bring a turnaround, that would really bring repentance.
Ruby Franke admits in this clip to disciplining her children off camera so we don't see what actually happens. In this scene, her youngest is playing with her nail polish in the bathroom when she drops it on the floor and gets it on the rug and tiles. Sherry, their oldest daughter, is actually trying to calm Ruby down in this scene so that she handles her sister and the situation better. I want you to pay close attention to their youngest son's reaction, how he feels at the end, and that he's trying to stick up for his sister.
And then I found this. You only got a little gist of it on camera. All of the discipline takes place off camera. We saved the floor. It came off the tile okay. But I think my rug is totaled.
But aren't you glad it happened that way and not the other way around?
Well, it came off the tile okay.
Well, I know, but aren't you glad?
I'm glad it came off the tile and...
So you have to look at the bright side.
Thank you, Sherry.
The tile is good, and it would have been a lot more expensive than to replace at most $100 rug.
It's not $100, yeah. Not that expensive. Okay.
Mom, you want to say sorry.
Okay, you tell her to come here. Come here. Come here.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry for what?
I'm sorry for making a mess and
I am more upset that you came in my room when you knew you weren't supposed to. And you got into my things that you knew were not yours. That makes me more upset than making a mess. Because messes happen, but you were sneaking. And then you hid instead of telling me the truth.
I was just really sorry and I didn't mean to do it. And then I said I shouldn't have done this idea.
You knew that it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
You're still going to have the consequence of not having your nails done for a month. Do you understand that?
Yes. And I still want to buy you one of the Nutter rugs.
You still want to buy me a new rug? Maybe you can do some extra chores to help them with the money.
Mom.
It's a deal. Give me a hug.
Mom, can I help you too to get paid? Because I want a lot of money.
You.
I apologize.
Okay, I need some time alone. I need some space.
We now know where Ruby Frankie's children are, and also Kevin Frankie tried to file burglary charges against his older daughter, Sherry. Reports have been obtained that the police had to go back to the Frankie home on August 31st, the day after the children had been found. Apparently, Sherry had gone into the home to gather clothing and personal items for her two older sisters, as she now has custody of them. The two younger are in custody of DCFS. A DCFS caseworker was also at the home with Sherry while they were collecting items. Sherry was getting items for the two older children, and the DCFS caseworker was getting clothing for the two younger. They also got police to come to the home as protection. Kevin Frankie apparently went back to the home and realized several electronic items were removed from the home, and he immediately called police. He told police that he believed Sherry had broken down the front door and thought that she had stolen the electronic items based on something she had said in court that day. Of course, Sherry did not break down the door. The police broke down the door the day before when they were searching the home for the children. The thing Kevin was most concerned that Sherry had taken, apparently, was some journals and electronic journals. He told the police none of the children were welcome in the home, especially Sherry, and that he wanted her charged with burglary. The police explained that Sherry was in the home to collect items for the children. The officer told Kevin that they would not be filing charges against Sherry and that this was a civil issue if he had an issue with it. Kevin advised him that he was going to sue the police department as he was displeased with the answer that he got. Kevin's lawyer, of course, did give a brief statement to the news, and he said Kevin didn't do either. He and Sherry are working together on bygones and resuming a loving and healthy father-daughter relationship. Kevin is still trying to understand and correct the upside-down world that was dealt him. It's a lot to deal with at once. We now know where Ruby Frankie's children were on the day that her 12-year-old escaped from Jodi Hildebrandt's home. We also know what it was that Sherry Frankie had taken from the family home when Kevin tried to press charges on her for burglary. Police reports have now been obtained that show that the two middle children were not at Jodi Hildebrandt's home, and police were desperately searching for them. They ended up going to the Frankie home and breaking down the door when no one was answering, and it was noted that there was significant damage when they entered the home. As you know, when Kevin Frankie contacted the police to say that Sherry Frankie had burglarized his home, he tried to accuse her also of breaking down the door. After they searched the Frankie home with no luck of finding the two girls, they ended up contacting the older sister, Sherry Frankie. They did find out that one of the children, one of the older girls, had left a local place of employment by telling her supervisor that she had a family emergency. After viewing surveillance footage from the place of work, they soon realized that this woman picked up the daughter. This is Pam Bodgen, and Pam actually works for Connections. This is her picture from the website. Police made contact with Pam, and she ended up having both of the girls at her home. She claimed that Ruby had called her and said that she had a family emergency and asked Pam to pick up both girls and asked if they could stay with her for some time. Pam said it wasn't an odd request because apparently she'd had both girls at her house before to do housework and chores. A DCFS worker gave the girls a choice of either going to a foster home or staying with their older sister, Sherry. And apparently they didn't want to leave Pam's house at first, but they did soon decide to go with Sherry. The DCFS worker and Sherry then went to the Frankie family home to get clothing for all 4 children. Sherry was getting clothing for the 2 older, and the DCFS worker was getting clothing for the younger. While Sherry was there, she did take several items. Apparently, the police did locate the items with Sherry and she returned them, but we now know that what she took was 3 tablets, 3 cell phones, 3 cameras and GoPros, a stack of written journals, and 3 passports for Kevin, Ruby, and another one of their children. As soon as Kevin got home and found this out, he contacted the police, wanted them to press charges on her for burglary, and also apparently for breaking down the door. The police told him that that is not going to happen. Sherry was allowed in the home previously, and he hadn't been there for 13 months. Kevin seemed to be most concerned about the electronic journals. He informed the police that none of these children were allowed in his home anymore, and he wanted all the items back. I think the biggest question now is wondering what was in those journals that Kevin was so worried about. Ruby Frankie's sister Bonnie has spoken out again about the situation with her sister. She has made a couple new vlogs on her channel. One of them was when she went away with her family for the weekend. And she may have just possibly let us know that she's trying to get custody of Ruby Frankie's children. In the second video, she shares with us how she told her own children about Ruby Frankie's arrest.
I wish all my siblings could get away. I wish that Julie and Ellie and Bo and my parents, they need a little time away, but I wish I could bring all kids with me. I wish all of the kids got to enjoy this, and my hope and desire is that that will happen one day. There is hope that one day everyone involved, if you're not an idiot, you know what I'm saying, that one day things can be normal and fun again.
In this next clip, Bonnie shares that Ruby and Bonnie's children used to be extremely tight. They used to have sleepovers and exchange children all the time. She, at one point, because of the connections entering Ruby's life, decided that she wasn't comfortable with sleepovers anymore and told Ruby. Within weeks of that happening is when Ruby pulled away from all of her family, and apparently this happened 3 years ago. She also adds at the end how she told her children about Ruby Frankie's arrest.
I haven't gone a single day without crying, I don't think. But they're getting less frequent. My cry sessions are getting less frequent and less intense. And there's a lot that I have to say. And I've just been really mindful and thoughtful when and how I want to say it. But there's a lot. Question is, how did you explain everything to your kids? After Ruby started implementing what she was learning in Connections, her actions naturally bled through her family. And so when the kids would get together and play, they would start correcting my kids, and essentially they were counseling and giving what they had learned in therapy. They were teaching that to my kids, which was odd, and that had caused some friction between the cousins. My kids were getting uncomfortable, and there was nothing specific that had happened other than, you know, we're not having fun anymore. Things are feeling kind of weird, and I was feeling the same way. And so it was a really big deal when I told Ruby that I don't feel comfortable having sleepovers or switching kids with you anymore. That was a very big deal. She was mad. She was mad when I told her that. And then between then and when Ruby cut our family off, there wasn't a lot of time and there wasn't a lot of communication after that, because Ruby was really upset that we wouldn't join Connections. She was upset that my kids didn't want to follow in the pathway that she was having her kids follow, as far as just like mindset and way of doing things and verbiage. And so from the very beginning, it was just kind of known and integrated with the kids that things weren't right. We're not going to do sleepovers anymore. And that was kind of part of their decision as well, because it didn't feel right to them. And then when Ruby cut us off, there was no hiding it from the kids. And so as things have unfolded now, we can see that this is something that Jodi has done, is she gets in people's lives and she plants these ideas or accusations against people when that is just not true. There is zero way of hiding it from the kids. And I don't think I wanted to hide it from the kids. And so I just told them what was happening as it was happening, but keeping it very surface. Just Ruby doesn't want communication with our family. We're not allowed to talk with our cousins anymore. How I told the kids about Ruby being arrested. My sister Julie called and I answered. I put her on speaker and I was like, "Hey Julie, how are you? What's going on?" And immediately I knew something was wrong. And as she was telling me, it was just like, I think we were learning as the conversation went on. So Julie told me, and immediately I was like, "Get Ellie on the phone." And so, we got Ellie on a three-way. Me and Julie and Ellie, we stayed on the phone and we didn't get off the phone. As we were learning more details, we couldn't let each other go. We just stayed on the phone together, I think for hours that night. And my kids didn't leave my side. We did call my parents that night, and that was very difficult. I think we were up all hours of the night. We just couldn't not be on the phone together, even though there was nothing to be said. The next morning, the kids were like, did you hear anything else? They would come home and, I would just update them as I knew things. And I feel like that was really good for the kids. I think that they would have worried more had they been wondering what was going on, or if they could see how upset we were.
Sherry Frankie's 911 call has now been released from the day that she contacted police to let them know that her siblings had been home alone for at least 4 to 5 days.
Hi, my name is Sherry Frankie. My 4 younger siblings are living in Springville, and my neighbors have been telling me that they have been left home alone for about 4 or 5 days.
We also now have the body cam footage from the day that Ruby Frankie's home was raided, when they were looking for the 14 and 16-year-old daughters that were not at Jodi Hildebrandt's home.
You two stay on that corner.
And this morning, exclusive body cam footage obtained by ABC News showing the moments police swarm Frankie's Utah home the day of her arrest on August 30th.
Police department!
Guns drawn as police scour room to room in Frankie's home for more of her children after one of them escaped from a house of her business partner nearly 4 hours away in Ivins, Utah.
And finally, we also have the body cam footage released from when the police arrived at Pam Bodger's home looking for the 14 and 16-year-old girls. And Pam, of course, worked for Connections.
But more exclusive body cam confirming the whereabouts of the 2 middle children.
Well, we have to physically see her.
A different police agency finding them miles away and turning them over to the state.
Pam Bodger, a co-worker of Ruby Frankie's, was put in handcuffs the day that Ruby Frankie was arrested. We've got video footage now of the police body cam the day that the 2 middle children, the 14 and 16-year-old girls, were located at Pam's home. And here's the footage.
When you picked her up, what was the case? Did somebody ask you to pick her up, or did you just pick her up? What was going on?
Well, I'm having guests coming, and she came and did some cleaning for me.
Right now in the house.
In the living room, right here.
Okay, great. We're gonna have both of you come out here then.
If you can, just for a second, we just have to go over some stuff.
You have a warrant?
Yeah, we do.
Let me see it, please.
So it's in my car, but right now my concern is.
Will you just tell them you're all right?
Well, we have to physically see her.
Come to the doorway.
We'll go ahead and get the copy of the warrant for you, okay?
You have a warrant for my house?
Specifically for you.
For you and the child.
Yeah. Okay. So,
what is going on?
As of right now, I'll just need you to give your phone to your husband.
Okay.
Okay? And as of this moment, you're going to be detained right now, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so,
what
is
does
there
that mean?
is there anything on you?
No.
Okay, perfect. Just put your hands in front of you, okay? Just going to place you temporarily under arrest. Okay? I'll explain to you that
What are you guys doing?
I've explained this already. I'm being as courteous as I can,
Okay, well, I'm going to call an attorney.
That's fine.
I don't know what's
Yeah, I don't even know what this is all about.
Okay, so I'm going to explain to you when we get to the car. Yes, I just explained to you that you're being detained right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you to my car, okay? I need this officer to stay with your husband, and I'm going to explain everything to you when we get there, okay? We were requested by St. George and Springville Police to make contact here with the residents, then to detain you currently until questions are answered. Okay?
What kind of questions?
So I'm going to call the main officers from Springville, and that's where I'm going to tell him that I have you detained, and he can question you from now. So now you know pretty much as I do, okay? So I'm going to call him, and we're just going to go from there, okay?
So what do I have to do with it? Why am I like this when haven't resisted or anything?
Because I have to detain you momentarily until I figure out what charges they're going to go with that. So like I said, we were requested by another agency to locate you and detain you temporarily under a warrant to figure out what it is. He's right there, which means you had her. That make sense?
Yeah, she comes over to my house all the time.
I know that she's here. I don't know if she came willingly or not.
Well, can't you ask her?
That's what we're about to do.
Okay.
But as of right now, that's why I separated you, because I want the truth. I don't want coercion. I don't want her being felt like she has to say stuff. Yeah. All that kind of stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in there. We're going to drive back to the front so you can hang out right in front of your house. Okay?
Okay.
We now have the police body cam footage from when Ruby and Kevin Frankie's two middle children, the 16-year-old and 14-year-old, were found. They were located at one of Ruby Frankie's business associates' home, Pam Bodger, and this is how it went down.
There's a warrant taken into state custody. A couple of them are found and malnourished and bound.
Is Ruby Frankie's daughter.
Okay.
She's a friend of ours. She comes over and helps me every once in a while to do cleaning and stuff. So my friend called me and she said, hey, I have a family emergency. I'm going to St. George.
How did you start to know the family? How did you meet?
The Frankie family?
Yeah.
Through a program called Connections. It's a kind of a life skills type thing.
Pam walked with the officers and DCFS worker back to the front of their home, where they told the children that they were either to stay with their older sister or be placed into state custody with a foster family.
You want me to go get your stuff? You guys come and get your stuff. Said she had a family emergency.
And needed to pick up the girls.
Yeah, she said, would you mind watching the girls while I'm gone? Because she was leaving. I said, yeah, I could do that because I need some help cleaning.
Okay, and then did you say to bring them to your house for today and then take it back home tonight, or to keep them here for a couple days?
She didn't say. I was just planning on bringing them home tonight.
Ruby Frankie's sister Ellie has uploaded her first video since her sister was arrested this past August.
Oh man, my heart is racing. I have not been doing well at all. Over the last few months, I have felt so much grief and so much sadness and so much shock. And I thought I was doing better. I'm nursing my baby and I lost quite a bit of weight. And so I really needed to just focus on eating and taking care of my kids. And social media work was the last thing on my mind. My heart has been very heavy. We've just been through a lot. I've had a hard time wanting to get on social media, and I haven't felt ready to come back to do that. I haven't felt ready, and so I haven't. But I don't know if this feeling is going to go away anytime soon. Like I said, I thought I was doing fine, and then we get snippets here and there, and then it throws me through a loop and I'm crushed. So I really wanted to get on and say hi, say thank you. I would like to say I'll see you tomorrow, but I'm not sure. We'll just see. We'll see where life takes us, Junie.
There is still no court date set for Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrand. They have been in jail since the situation happened at the end of August. I will definitely be posting updates, so don't forget to hit follow. Breaking news in the Ruby Franke case, Kevin Franke filed for divorce today and a domestic relations injunction. The petition for divorce is private. However, KUTV did post an update on the domestic relations injunction. So an injunction basically imposes restrictions so that both parties move forward in a fair and peaceful way. The injunction included sections regarding harassment, domestic violence, and misuse of personal info. These are some of the restrictions that are now included, and it is directed at both parties. The first one is that they're going to be barred from engaging in any actions that would disturb the peace or safety of the other, and this includes specific bans on electronic harassment and any form of abuse. Neither Ruby nor Franke are allowed to transfer, conceal, or dispose of any assets without mutual consent or court order. Basically, this is in place to prevent anything happening before the divorce is finalized. They don't want anyone selling, hiding, or giving away any of the assets. The court has also placed a lot of emphasis on the minor children involved. So as you know, they have 4 minor children and 2 adult children. So they have stated in this that they restrict both parties from making derogatory remarks about each other in front of the kids and from influencing the kids' views regarding custody or parent time with each other. Still no word on the custody of the children or where they are right now. And Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrand are currently still sitting in jail waiting for their next court date. This injunction is going to be in place, however, until the divorce is finalized, until it's dismissed, or until there's a new court order. Ruby and Kevin Franke's 2 older girls, the 14 and 16-year-old, are apparently no longer living with Sherry Franke and haven't been for quite some time. When police located the 2 middle girls, they were at this woman's home, Pam Bodger. Ruby Franke had asked her to go pick up the girls, and that is where she wanted them to stay. When DCFS arrived, however, with the police, they gave the girls 2 options. 1, go into custody with DCFS and go into foster care, or 2, go with their older sister, 20-year-old Sherry Franke. Eventually, both girls did choose to go with their older sister, Sherry. However, it apparently did not last long. It turns out that Sherry apparently had to contact police because the girls were misbehaving, including running away. They did not want to be there, and they were showing it in every way they could. Sherry had to call for help, and when the police and DCFS arrived, they did have to take both girls into custody, and apparently they are both now in foster care. Ruby Franke and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrand, are still sitting in jail. We do not have a court date set yet, but I will definitely update you whenever one comes out, so make sure you hit follow. You can't share about active investigations and things, but I can because I'm not part of this.
Sure.
But I've had 3 different people reach out to me with confirmation of this information. I wanted to talk to you guys about Sherry Franke no longer having custody of the kids. So a lot of people in my posts were asking how I knew that and things like that. I'm not going to tell you who's reached out to me in names, but I can kind of give you the gist of how I've found out. So I found out 3 ways. One is an extremely legitimate source who I'm not going to quote, but I trust and know where it's coming from. The other 2 I was told about probably a month or more ago, and I didn't put a lot of stock into it just because I didn't know them. But one of them was the neighbor of a foster home, like a home that takes in foster children, and she had written me to say that the 2 middle girls were now at this home. And I thought, maybe, but there was no proof, I couldn't verify it, so I just left it. The next time, that was about a week or 2 after that, and another woman reached out to me and said that she was friends with the mom at this home of this foster home who took in the girls. So I had 2 people that then verified it, or said it, but I couldn't verify it. The third person, I could verify it. And so what I did is I got a request put in to I say it wrong all the time. Is it Springfield? Springville. Springville, thank you. It's not Simpson. Springville, to the Springville Police Department. So I put a request for information in for the body cam footage and the report from September 2nd, which is the date that the girls were removed from Sherry Franke's home. I wanted to be able to post it and show you guys the evidence, the actual facts. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because they wrote me back and said that it's denied. And they specified that the report from September 2nd, so it does exist. It is, in fact, a case. It happened at Sherry's apartment on September the 2nd. What ended up happening was the girls were kind of, we'll say, misbehaving. They were giving Sherry a hard time. They had attempted to run away. It was just too much for Sherry, so she had to call DCFS. DCFS got the police to come along, so there was body cam footage and a police report made. When they got there, they realized that Sherry, who's 20 years old, just couldn't handle the situation. For all their safeties, the girls unfortunately did have to be removed from the home. But the denial that I got from the police department is because the judge has issued basically a gag order. It cannot be spoken about because it's a situation with DCFS. It's a custody issue right now. And any materials that were used in court, the judge has deemed they cannot be released to the media. So I was not able to get a copy of it, but I did get a copy of the report saying it's there, and I just can't have it. And it does explain why. And it's because the judge has said anything that was used in the child custody situation or that will be used in court, it has to be the right to fair representation. So I was not able to get a copy of it to show you guys. And Katie, maybe you can answer this, but it probably won't be released until after the trial or maybe during the trial.
Yeah, it'll be after or during. I'm sure this court is going to make this trial public and like live, like who was that? Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. I'm sure it'll be just like that. I would be shocked if it isn't. So all of it will come out, I'm sure, slowly during the trial. But I think the biggest reason they did that is they don't want to give Ruby any reason to request a change of venue for her trial. So the more people around, like location-wise around, that see these bits and pieces of evidence throughout the way, her defense can say are tainted and that they're not going to find a set of jurors that haven't heard about it or haven't seen a video or haven't, already made up some sort of their mind based on these little pieces of evidence. So I would think that's why they're not releasing it. But anything that gets used in court eventually will be able to be released, as evidence once it's all done. So
Ruby Franke has turned on Jodi Hildebrand, and when she goes to court on Monday, December 18th, she is going to be entering a plea deal. Her lawyer has just released a statement with all the information. Let's get into it. So the lawyer starts off by saying that this statement is on behalf of Ruby, that they're going to talk about the pending charges as well as her thoughts about her current family situation. They also mentioned that they are working with the prosecutor's office right now and that they anticipate that this will move quickly now because they are entering a plea agreement with the court on Monday, December 18th. Okay, let's get into what he wrote. It starts off saying, Ruby Franke is a devoted mother and is also a woman committed to constant improvement. Initially, Miss Franke believed that Jodi Hildebrand had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Miss Hildebrand took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Over an extended period, Miss Hildebrand systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality shaped by Miss Hildebrand's influence. So basically, Ruby Franke just blamed everything on Jodi Hildebrand. She said that is the reason everything happened because Jodi Hildebrand isolated her from her entire family and that she lost her morality because of Jodi. The statement goes on to say, during Ruby Franke's incarceration in Washington County Jail, over the past few months, she has actively engaged in an introspection that has allowed her to reset her moral compass and understand the full weight of her actions. Miss Franke is committed to taking responsibility for the part she played in the events leading up to her incarceration. Demonstrating a sincere dedication to personal growth and rehabilitation, she has actively begun the process by reaching out to members of her family. Through heartfelt apologies, she seeks to mend relationships and contribute positively to the healing journey of her family. So she's now made a point of letting us know that she's trying to reach out to family members and apologize. I'd like to know what family members she's referring to. Is she talking about her children and Kevin, or is she talking about her siblings and her parents? Then she adds a little piece about Kevin in here. Ruby is aware that Kevin Franke has filed for divorce. While she is devastated by this news, she acknowledges and understands his anger and reasoning. Despite the pain, she respects his decisions and remains hopeful that, with time, she can contribute to rebuilding trust and fostering understanding within their family. Ruby has offered her full cooperation to help the children reunite with their father. So remember, Ruby Franke apparently had gone on a business trip with Jodi Hildebrand, returned home to tell Kevin Franke that in order to make the marriage work, he was going to have to leave for a year. He was not allowed to have any contact with his family members, including his children or Ruby Franke, and she apparently was only allowed to contact him 3 or 4 times in that year. Well, the year expired and they still were not back together. So was Ruby really going to be taking him back, or was she not? And the statement ended with this: Windward Law recognizes the profound love that Miss Franke holds for her children, and we are genuinely saddened that she found herself on this challenging path under the influence of Miss Hildebrand. It is our firm belief that Miss Franke is a devoted mother who, unfortunately, was led astray. She is sincere in her commitment to securing the best possible future for her family, and we remain hopeful that, with the right support and understanding, she can navigate a path of healing and growing. I know I have a lot of thoughts about this statement. I'm sure you guys do as well. Drop them in the comments. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to hit follow. I will definitely be updating after Ruby's court date on Monday, December 18th. Jodi Hildebrand, of course, goes on December 27th. Ruby Franke pled guilty to 4 out of the 6 child abuse charges today, and it is so much worse than you could have imagined. I'm going to play the video clip right now of her in court. Make sure you hit follow because the next post will be explaining all 4 of the child abuse charges that she has agreed to plead guilty to, and it basically explains what she did to her children.
Good morning. Welcome to District Court. We're here in the matter of State of Utah versus Franke, case number 231501764. Ms. Franke is now here. Mr. Windward, we are scheduled for a waiver hearing. Is there going to be a waiver today?
There will, plus a plea agreement, Your Honor.
All right. All right. I've been handed a plea agreement, and it appears to be signed by Ms. Franke. Ms. Franke, did you sign this agreement?
Yes.
And you did that today? When did you sign it?
On the 18th.
Okay. You've read it carefully?
Every word.
Your signature represents to the court that you've read it carefully, that you understand what you've read, and that you agree to all of the terms. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
Mr. Windward, we ready to proceed?
We are ready to proceed.
All right, then. Ms. Franke, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
The court finds that the factual basis is sufficient. All of the terms of the agreement are stipulated, including that the court obtain a pre-sentence investigation report, correct?
Correct.
There won't be any argument about whether prison is the appropriate sentence, and there's an agreement about the 4 counts running consecutive.
That is correct.
All right. The court finds then that Ms. Franke's pleas are made knowingly and voluntarily. The court therefore accepts and enters those pleas. Counsel, what about sentencing on February 20th? I think, do you and your client agree to waive time, counsel?
We do agree to waive time, Your Honor.
February 20th, I believe, is a Tuesday, 10 a.m.?
That works for us, Your Honor.
All right.
We now know the details of what Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrand had been doing to Ruby's 2 youngest children. Trigger warning right now, guys, because this is way worse than I thought. As you know, Ruby Franke was in court today. She pled guilty to 4 out of the 6 child abuse charges, and she has agreed to testify against Jodi Hildebrand. From her statement released by her lawyer this week, it sounds like she is putting a lot of the blame on Jodi Hildebrand. Ruby did have family members in attendance today. She had her brother Bo, her sister Julie, and her parents were also there. It appears they have returned home. They did appear to arrive together, and when Ruby entered the courtroom, she did turn and look at them and smiled. If you haven't seen the courtroom footage yet, it is in my previous post. I'm going to now read to you exactly what Ruby has admitted to, the things that she has done to her two youngest children, her 10-year-old daughter and her 12-year-old son. She's admitted to 4 counts out of the 6 of child abuse, and it appears to have started May 22nd, 2023. I am going to read some of this just to make sure that I get all the facts straight, so bear with me. One of the first things I noticed in this document was that it does appear that Ruby Franke is taking responsibility for doing some of this to her children. It's worded like this: Ruby intentionally or knowingly inflicted and allowed another adult to inflict serious physical injuries upon her 9 and 11-year-old children. So it does say that she inflicted this as well. The first count of child abuse has to do with physical torture of her 12-year-old son. It says that initially she was forcing him to do physical labor for hours and days at a time. And the examples listed were doing wall sits, which is when you put your back up against a wall and squat down. It's absolute torture for anyone that has tried to do this. The other is carrying boxes of heavy books up and down stairs repeatedly. And the third example was the fact that he was being forced to work outside and do labor outside in the crazy Utah heat. As you know, in Utah, temperatures can get up to over 100 degrees. This is one of the things that Jodi Hildebrand's neighbor had actually told the police about, was that she would look outside and she would see the children outside in crazy hot temperatures doing gardening. It also listed that he was made to do all of this barefoot and that he was also forced to stand outside in direct sunlight for hours and even days at a time. He was also forced to stay outside at all hours of the day and night for extended periods of time. This, of course, resulted in, as you can imagine, extremely serious sunburns. It resulted in blisters and repeated sloughing of the skin. So his skin was literally peeling off. He was denied food and water while he was doing this, and he would actually be punished if he was caught drinking water while he was outside. It went on to say that if they did feed him, he was given extremely bland, boring foods like a piece of chicken and some rice, while the rest of the family had a normal meal. He was being isolated from everyone in his life, and he was also refused any form of entertainment, which of course included electronics, but it also included books and any kind of paper. It also says that he apparently tried to run away previously. It was in July, and it looks like once they got him back, that is when they started restraining him. They initially tied up his wrists and his ankles, and they would tie him to weights or to Ruby as well. They also would get him to lay on his belly, and they would put his hands behind his back, handcuff his wrists, handcuff his ankles, and then tie the handcuffs together. This apparently caused excessive damage to his tissue and his muscles. And once he had open wounds, they would put some sort of homeopathic remedy on it, put duct tape over the wounds, and then put the handcuffs over the duct tape. The document also listed 3 specific incidences that Ruby Franke has admitted to. Number 1 was that she was kicking him while wearing boots. Number 2, she said she held his head underwater. And number 3, she said she would cut off his oxygen with her hand over his mouth and nose. Count number 2 is for the severe emotional harm she caused to her son. It stated that Ruby and Jodi sought to indoctrinate him. They were trying to convince him that he was evil and possessed. It went on to say that he had to be willing to be obedient to avoid punishments, that his punishments were necessary for him to repent, and that they were doing all of this out of love. The next 2 counts are for what she has done to her 10-year-old daughter. The first count is for severe emotional harm, and it does look like she endured exactly what her brother had endured, other than apparently the binding and also the 3 specific incidences that I had mentioned. She had been isolated the same way. She had been forced to do physical tasks and remain outside for extended periods of time. She was also denied food and water and told that she was evil and possessed. And the final count, count 4, was that these actions caused 2 or more physical injuries to her daughter. It says that she was forced to work outside in heat, barefoot as well. And she was also forced to run on dirt roads, apparently barefoot. So she had extensive injuries to her feet repeatedly. They said that when they found her, she was extremely sunburnt. She had blisters and her skin was peeling off as well. Ruby Franke is going to be sentenced on February 20th. We don't know right now what that is going to look like, but I will definitely be updating on this case, so make sure to hit follow.
Ms. Franke, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
The court finds that the factual basis is sufficient. All of the terms of the agreement are stipulated, including that the court obtain a pre-sentence investigation report, correct?
Correct.
There won't be any argument about whether prison is the appropriate sentence, and there's an agreement about the 4 counts running consecutive.
That is correct.
All right. The court finds then that Ms. Franke's pleas are made knowingly and voluntarily. The court therefore accepts and enters those pleas. Counsel, what about sentencing on February 20th? I think, do you and your client agree to waive time, counsel?
We do agree to waive time, Your Honor.
February 20th, I believe, is a Tuesday, 10 a.m.?
That works for us, Your Honor.
All right.
Ruby Franke's mother mouthed the words "I love you" to her as she was leaving the courtroom this afternoon. The first thing that Ruby Franke did when she entered the courtroom was look to her family, her father, her mother, her sister Julie, and her brother Bo, and gave them a big smile. Well, as she was leaving, her sister returned that smile, and her mother mouthed the words "I love you."
Ms. Franke is now here.
Here's a picture of her family arriving at the courthouse today. This is her brother Bo, and in behind her sister Julie and her mother and her father. Here's the video of Ruby leaving the courtroom. I'm now going to play the video of her family's reaction when she turned to say goodbye to them leaving the courtroom. You can see Julie give her a big smile, and her mother mouth the words "I love you." Jodi Hildebrand has had her 5 minutes in court. She submitted a plea deal this morning, pleading guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, just like Ruby Franke did. The 2 of them are going to be sentenced February 20th. Make sure you hit follow. I will definitely be updating.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to District Court. We are here this morning in the matter of State of Utah versus Jodi Hildebrand. We are scheduled for a waiver of preliminary hearing. Mr. Terry, appears you have just handed the court a signed plea agreement.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Then, Ms. Hildebrand, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, also aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
All right, then the court orders the preparation of a pre-sentence investigation report and set sentencing at 10:30 a.m. on February 20th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We now know every horrid thing that Jodi Hildebrand and Ruby Franke did to Ruby and Kevin Franke's children. We now have the plea agreement that Jodi Hildebrand passed in today when she pleaded guilty to 4 counts of child abuse. If you are interested in all of the details, you can click this comment. It will take you to my original post that has all the details of what they did. It appears they have both admitted to the horrific acts that they did to Ruby Franke's 2 youngest children, her 12-year-old son and her 10-year-old daughter. The only difference was that Ruby admitted to doing several items to the 12-year-old boy, including kicking him with boots on, holding his head underwater, and also covering his mouth and nose to restrict oxygen. Jodi has not admitted to those 3 acts. Instead, she is admitted to either physically forcing or coercing the youngest daughter, their 10-year-old daughter, to jump into a cactus multiple times. There will now not be a trial for Jodi Hildebrand or Ruby Franke. Because they have put in plea deals, it is going to automatically go to a sentencing hearing. That sentencing hearing is going to be February 20th. I will definitely be updating, so don't forget to hit follow. Kevin Franke is going after Jodi Hildebrand, and this time it's for her money. The paperwork that his lawyer has put in is giving us some insight onto how their children are currently doing. Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrand have both pled guilty to 4 counts of child abuse, and they're currently sitting in prison waiting for their sentencing hearing, which is going to be February 20th of this year. Well, Kevin Franke's lawyer, Randy Kester, has put in paperwork asking a judge for restitution from Jodi Hildebrand for what she has done to the 2 children. This paperwork is starting to give us a bit of insight on how the 2 youngest children are doing right now. The paperwork stated that the kids underwent medical care, which we did know of because of the injuries they sustained from their mother and Jodi Hildebrand. But it also says they've now had psychological assessments and ongoing medical health treatment to help them comprehend and recover from their injuries. The paperwork also states that they're going to remain in professional care for their aggravated psychological and emotional injuries they suffered. It says they're going to require long-term professional care, which I don't think surprises anyone. The paperwork goes on to say that right now, the state of Utah is currently paying for all of this because the children are in custody of the state. Kevin Franke is fighting to get custody, and the paperwork states that this may go on until September of 2024 of this year. Hopefully this is settled way before that. But the lawyer states that when it is settled and the children hopefully are returned with Kevin, they want Jodi Hildebrand paying for all this care. Kevin Franke's lawyer may have put in this paperwork now because Jodi Hildebrand has now listed her house for sale for $5.3 million. The inside pictures of the home were listed on the realtor website, including a picture of the safe room, the panic room that Jodi Hildebrand had in her basement. However, these pictures have now been removed, but not before KUTV was able to screenshot it. The paperwork is asking the court for an emergency order to immediately stop Jodi Hildebrand from being able to attempt to transfer, dispose, sell, or otherwise adversely affect the value of said property. The paperwork also goes on to list the items that they believe Jodi Hildebrand has, like her automobiles, a side-by-side, as well as her financial accounts. But interesting enough, it also lists that they may not be under Jodi Hildebrand's name anymore, and it may have been moved into a third-party name, like Pam Bodger or Connections. You may recall that Pam Bodger was the friend of Ruby Franke that she contacted to go pick up her 14 and 16-year-old daughters when she was arrested. Kevin Franke's lawyer is asking for the judge to hear their restitution claims when Jodi Hildebrand goes for sentencing on February 20th. I will definitely be updating about this case, so make sure you hit follow if you're interested. Ruby Franke was sentenced today, and the prosecution felt it necessary that everyone in the courtroom, including the judge, revisited everything she had done to her children.
The state respectfully requests that the court sentence Ms. Franke to consecutive prison terms for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. This sentence was agreed to by Ms. Franke in her plea agreement and is also recommended by adult probation and parole. She committed horrible acts of child abuse. From May to August in 2023, Ms. Franke and her business partner held her 2 children, ages 9 and 11, turning 12, in a concentration camp-like setting. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. They were isolated from others and were hidden when people came to visit the house where the children and the defendants were staying. The children were forced to do physical tasks like carrying loaded boxes up and down stairs and wall sits or sitting against a wall without a chair or stool for hours at a time. They were also forced to do manual labor outdoors in the extreme summer heat, at times without shoes or socks. They were forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours and even days at a time. They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was regularly bound hand and foot after he attempted to run away in mid-July. Both children had extensive physical injuries from the abuse that required hospitalization when they were found. The injuries from the binding to the 12-year-old are particularly awful. In addition to physical abuse, the children were emotionally abused to the extent that each believed, to some degree, that they deserved what was being done to them. Had the older of the children not had the courage to run away and ask a neighbor to call the police, heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived in that situation.
Ruby Franke was sentenced today on each of the 4 counts of child abuse that she's been charged for. She was found guilty and she has now been sentenced to 1 to 15 years consecutive per charge. And this is what she had to say.
I would like to make a statement without any intent to change my stipulated sentence. For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me. I was led to believe that this world was an evil place, filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abused. My choice to believe and behave this paranoia culminated into criminal activity for which I stand before you today ready to take accountability. Jodi Hildebrandt was never my business partner, nor was I ever employed by her. I have never received wages from her or connections. Jodi was employed as my son's counselor in 2019, and in 2020 I paid her to be my mentor. It is important to me to demonstrate my remorse and regret without blame. I take full accountability for my choices, and it is my preference that I serve a prison sentence. Thank you to the officers in Santa Clara and the Ivan City Police, Nick Hellman, Brian Palufo, Cy Pikuvit, Mike Pondoyo in Tobler, John Ward, D. Lewis, and Chief Flowers. You were the angels who came and saved my children. I especially want to thank Detective Jay Bate. She plucked me out of a situation I didn't know how to get out of. And the moment she handcuffed me was the moment I gained my freedom. You were not the controlling ones. I was. Thank you to the medical staff at Intermountain Hospital. Your skill, tenderness, and professionalism helped to heal my children. Jodi and I inflicted the injuries, not the hospital. Thank you to DCFS, the Children's Justice Center, Judge Basil, and other key adults. You've gathered my children under your wing and offered them love, compassion, encouragement. You were not the ones who were doing the brainwashing. Thank you to my Bishop Tom Hawks and my state president Jim Nelson for reminding me of the Lord's love for the lost. So much pain and suffering would have been avoided had I followed and heeded your counsel. I was the one who was deceived, not you. Thank you to the Washington County Prosecutor's Office, Ryan Sham, the legal assistants and discovery clerks. Eric Clark, you exemplified to me how justice and mercy are meant to coexist. My charges are just. They offer safety to my family, accountability to the public, and they did show mercy to me. Thank you to my attorney Lamar Winward and his staff. I would not be where I am today without them. Thank you to Randy Kester for your limitless energy in healing my family. My dear friends, Pam and Roy, I'm so sorry for letting you down. Because of your association with me, your innocence was called into question. My mother-in-law, father-in-law, Kevin's family, my cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and neighbors, you all saw the warning signs long before I did, and you did what you could. You wanted to help, but I pushed you away. My mother and father, I have been utterly wretched to you. You have offered me unconditional love, and for that I have offered you unconditional contempt. My siblings and their spouses, because of my decision to roll around in a pigsty, I have dragged your families through the mud in public. Yet, when I desired to return as the prodigal sister, unlike the prodigal's brother in the Bible, you synced step with my parents and ran out to greet me. Your capacity to love is unprecedented. Kevin, my husband of more than 23 years, you are the love of my life. I'm so sorry to leave to you to finish what we both started together. The ending of our marriage is a tragedy. And you are wrapped around my heart. And a vow I'll never be able to undo. To my babies, my 6 little chicks, you were part of me. I was the mama duck who was consistently watering you to safety. I can see now that over the past 4 years I was in a deep undercurrent that led us to danger. I never led you to darkness knowingly. I was so disoriented that I believed dark was light and light was wrong. I would do anything in this world for you. My willingness to sacrifice all for you was masterfully manipulated into something very ugly. I took from you all that was soft and safe and good. I took from you your mother. How terrifying this must have been for you. I'll never stop crying for hurting your tender souls. You're so precious to me. I'm sorry. My choice to live in fear of the world has created a great vulnerability and a blind spot for me, where I have broken hearts and I've caused people to suffer and I have betrayed sacred trust. Watching my community respond to my charges with justice and mercy and grace and love is all the more evidence to me of how wrong I've been. This world is full of really good people. And finally, I'm sorry for twisting God's word and distorting his doctrines. My greatest desire is to stand in his court someday spotless and confident. And Judge Walton, I know that standing before you today is a necessary step towards that end. Thank you to you and your staff for facilitating my opportunity to take accountability and to answer for my charges. I am humbled and willing to serve a prison sentence as long as it takes to continue unraveling all of the misinformation I have believed and bought, swallowed, and acted out, and for my family to heal and for the community to heal. And I understand this is going to take time. I'm committed to continuing my learning until all of my toxic layers are shed, and I am ready to re-enter as a contributing member of our beautiful society. Thank you, Judge Walton.
Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrand have finally been sentenced. They were in back-to-back hearings this morning in a Utah courtroom, and they both received between 4 to 60 years in prison. Both Ruby and Jodi were sentenced to 4 separate counts of aggravated child abuse, and they received between 1 to 15 years per charge, which equates to 4 to 60 years. However, they are going to be run consecutively, which means, due to a law in Utah, they will not serve more than 30 years. The amount of time that each woman will actually serve is going to be decided by the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. No matter what, both women will definitely be spending at least 4 years in prison. Ruby made a lengthy statement this morning expressing her regrets and remorse for what she's done. If you have not seen that video yet, check out my previous video. Make sure you hit follow. I will definitely be updating on this case. Jodi Hildebrand's statement during her sentencing hearing this week was less than 40 seconds. This is what she had to say.
I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally. One of the reasons I did not go to trial is that I did not want them to emotionally relive the experience which would have been detrimental to them. My hope and prayer is that they will heal and move forward to have beautiful lives. I am willing to submit to what the state feels would be an appropriate amount of time served to make retribution as an outcome.
Jodi Hildebrand was sentenced this week on 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, and the prosecution felt it necessary to revisit and remind everyone exactly what this woman did to the 2 youngest Franke family children.
Ms. Hildebrand committed awful acts of child abuse. From May to August 2023, she and her business partner held 2 children, ages 9 and 11, turning 12, in a concentration camp-like setting in her house in Ivan City. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. They were isolated from others and were hidden when people came to visit the house. They were forced to do physical tasks like carrying loaded boxes up and down stairs and doing wall sits or sitting against a wall without assistance of a chair or stool for hours at a time. They were forced to do manual labor outdoors in the extreme summer heat, often without shoes or socks. They were also forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours and even days. They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was regularly bound hand and foot after he attempted to run away in mid-July. Both children had extensive physical injuries from the abuse that required hospitalization to treat. The injuries from the binding are particularly bad. In addition to the physical abuse, the children were emotionally abused. They each believed to some degree that they deserved what was being done to them. Had the older of the 2 children not had the courage to run away and ask a neighbor to call the police, heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived. After being caught, Ms. Hildebrand has shown little to no remorse for her actions. In telephone conversations that will be provided in full to the Board of Pardons and Parole, and which she knew to be recorded, she's repeatedly claimed that she is the victim and the children are the perpetrators. She has gone so far as to say that the things said in this proceeding and covered by the media today will be full of lies. The combination of 3 factors make Ms. Hildebrand a significant threat to the community. First, the severity of the abuse she caused to be inflicted on young children. Second, her attitude that everything she did was justified and that she is being wrongfully imprisoned. And third, her training as a therapist and aptitude for using online resources to convince others to follow her guidance.
Jodi Hildebrand allegedly has 0 remorse for what she did to the 2 youngest Franke family children. The prosecution today claimed that they have phone conversations that were taped from prison of Jodi Hildebrand, blaming the children and claiming that she's the victim.
After being caught, Ms. Hildebrand has shown little to no remorse for her actions. In telephone conversations that will be provided in full to the Board of Pardons and Parole, and which she knew to be recorded, she's repeatedly claimed that she is the victim and the children are the perpetrators. She has gone so far as to say that the things said in this proceeding and covered by the media today will be full of lies.
Now, of course, what that prosecutor just said was damning for her case and her sentencing. So Jodi's lawyer actually stood up and tried to defend her.
As is always the case in cases that come before courts, there are 2 sides to every case. And even in a case like this, that remains the case. The only facts in this case that are adjudicated facts are those set forth in the plea agreement that she entered into freely and knowingly and voluntarily. My experience with Ms. Hildebrand is that she is not the person that she has been portrayed to be. But having said that, she has accepted responsibility in this case. She did that at the time she entered into the plea agreement, knowing that that would be the court's order. She is before the court today, knowing that that will be the court's order, and she fully accepts that. She accepts responsibility and she accepts the consequences for her conduct.
Jodi then took less than 40 seconds to read this statement.
I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally. One of the reasons I did not go to trial is that I did not want them to emotionally relive the experience which would have been detrimental to them. My hope and prayer is that they will heal and move forward to have beautiful lives. I am willing to submit to what the state feels would be an appropriate amount of time served to make retribution as an outcome.
And then Jodi's lawyer took the opportunity once again to try and defend his client.
But I know that my client, in the statement that she makes to the court today, that statement is absolutely sincere.
Does Ms. Hildebrandt recognize that it's her behavior that caused the harm to the children that she's referred to in her statement?
Your Honor, she recognizes that she was, along with Miss Frankie, that she made decisions with respect to the discipline of those children that were wrong, that caused harm to those children. She fully recognizes that and accepts responsibility for that.
Kevin Frankie's police interrogation video has been released, and in this footage, Kevin Frankie goes into detail about why he hasn't seen his children or his family in over a year.
Do you wish to speak to me now?
Well, I want to pick up my kids.
So are they all living with you, or?
No, I haven't seen them for over a year.
Any of them?
No, none of them.
For a year?
Over a year.
Okay.
I've been in a separation.
From who?
From my wife and family.
What's your wife's name?
Ruby.
Ruby. When's the last time you saw Ruby?
The 18th
of
this month. We met to, she requested me to sign over vehicles, or the titles to the vehicle that she drives, that were all in my name. The day that I moved out, July 24th, 2022.
Who lives in that home with your children?
To be honest, I don't know. I know that she's there with 4 of the children, and our 2 older children have moved out. Like I said, I know nothing is going on in their lives or anything going on.
How did you find out that you needed to come here to 55 North Main Street?
I received a message that I needed to come pick up my kids from the police department in Highlands.
And did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or
no.
Was there?
I honored the no separation boundary that we agreed to.
So, what was your separation?
Boundary, excuse me.
Did you have a no contact order in place?
Order? No, this was between my wife and I.
So, what did Ruby ask of you when you separated?
What did she ask of me?
Did she ask you not to contact the kids?
Ruby invited me to leave the home while I thought about the choices that I've made in my life and the way that I've treated her.
Okay.
And so I left. The reasons are because of ways that I treated my wife and some of my own addictions that I was working through and seeking help on with pornography. I've made some wonderful progress. Jodi and Ruby have a close relationship, and Jodi saw the need for me to get help.
This is the moment that Kevin Frankie found out what his wife, Ruby Frankie, and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrand, had been doing to his 2 youngest children.
Sometime before 11 o'clock today, we received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water, that he was severely emaciated, that he had...
What is emaciated?
Skinny, scrawny, malnutrition, not enough food, not enough water to sustain life. So he had...
I'm sorry, what?
He had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove from your wife's care. So no one right now is going to have access to these two children based on their physical condition. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Would you condone that behavior?
Would I condone that behavior? No. But again, I don't know the details, or I don't know what's going on. But as you described that sounds
horrible, disgusting. No human being should be treated like that.
Okay.
That's my thoughts. But again, we might be different on that. Your children are under medical care right now.
And what does that mean?
And it means that you don't have access to them. My understanding is that they are, what is that?
They're in the custody of DCFS.
And they will be for the next 70.
There's a medical hold on them right now. So for at least the next 72 hours, based on our understanding.
At least the next 70.
During observation, they're being watched.
DCFS is going to provide you that information, and they can better answer your questions along those lines. That's handled through them. Okay?
What's going to happen? It's my wife. I love my wife.
I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know. Haven't had an interview with you.
I don't know if those charges against my wife.
Possibly. I think given the circumstances, that's highly appropriate. But again, I don't know your wife.
I trust her. But I love my wife, and I trust my wife. And so, I mean, this feels like getting run over by a steam truck, what you're sharing with me today. I thought I was just coming here to pick up my kids, and for what, I don't know what or why, and I was planning on taking them back with me. Folks, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to... You realize that I have a picture of my family on my wall, and I look at it every day, and I work every day, so I can get back to my family and save my family. And everything you're sharing to me just sounds like a made-up story. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, it sounds like a horror movie. And this is my life. I just want my kids. I just want my kids. I just want my family. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why these things that you described happen. I don't know. It's almost like I want to say, I'm sorry, you must have somebody else. Because it's like, am I in the right conference room here? No. That's what like. It's real. You know, I'm having a hard time accepting this and dealing with this. I mean, you're telling me that you're taking my kids from me, and what you're sharing with me just feels like a sucker punch, and just heartbroken. What you all are sharing with me. I feel responsible. I wish I was a better husband. I just want my kids back. I want my family back. I want my wife back.
Yesterday was a huge day for anyone who's been following the Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrand case, including for Ruby's sister Bonnie, who posted this to her Instagram stories yesterday. Bracing myself for what's to come today, and there was a lot. I'm still going through some of the material. I will be hopefully posting most of it today, so make sure you hit follow. We have got all of the interrogation videos leaked. We've got videos of both of the children being rescued from Jodi Hildebrand's home. We also have Ruby Frankie's journals, and it is not good. This is allegedly the reason why she confessed to certain activities that she did to her children in her plea deal. She had it all recorded in her journals. I will share all of that and more in the next few days. Again, make sure you hit follow. Video footage from the day that Ruby Frankie's 12-year-old son escaped from Jodi Hildebrand's house has now been released. I'm going to warn you, though, this is disturbing. This sweet boy was treated absolutely horrible at the hands of his mother and her business partner. The first video is from this scene where he goes to the first neighbor's home. Unfortunately, they weren't home, but it was captured on the doorbell camera. The second video footage is him going to the home of the neighbor who ended up contacting 911. There's also some footage of him in the ambulance and also one of the police officers on a phone call describing how horrific this poor boy's wounds were.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station.
Well, what's going on, son? Have a seat there.
It's personal business.
What's your name? Just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house and he's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry and he's thirsty.
Need someone immediately.
But he has duct tape around
Big
his ankle.
injuries, there's sores around them.
Yeah, there's sores around him. I think the good chance he's been...
He also has...
Oh, and he has it around his
wrist
ankle.
as well.
I mean, his wrist as well. Okay, this boy has been...
Needs immediate attention.
And, he's been young, he's had to carry his stocking feet. So he escaped.
We need the police here now.
They're on their way.
You don't have any allergies to that? Okay.
I hear a car, but they're not coming in the driveway. So...
I'm trying to make some other stuff here right now.
No, they're just not getting out of the truck. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
I gave
These folks are going to examine you.
This is hot.
I am. So I got the shades on.
Got pictures. I'll take more. Or do you want me to? You send them to you?
Hey, I'm Sergeant Tolber. I'm going to just get a few pictures. Are you okay with that?
You're not in trouble with me, okay? We're just trying to figure out what's going on. Our main focus right now is you, okay? First observed the kid. He was sitting on the chair, had the duct tape and plastic around his ankles. And then he had a long sleeve shirt on. And then we pulled his sleeves up and he had duct tape and clear plastic underneath the sleeves on both wrists. Medical got there, they started cutting the stuff off him. And then you can see like the dark around his ankles, and it you could smell it with the flesh. It's underneath the tape. As soon as they took it off, you can, even outside, you can smell You could smell the flesh. And then the transport, or put him in the ambulance. I went in there. They started cutting more off of it. You can see the wounds on the back of his ankles, around the front of his ankles, and then on his wrists as well. And the wounds around his ankles were dark and like, I don't know, like wet looking, I guess, from the moisture underneath it. Yeah, he said he was tied on the ground with a rope. That's where the wounds came from. Yeah, with ropes on all 4 of his extremities. And that's where the wounds came from. And then I put cayenne pepper mixed with honey, he said, on the wounds. And then covered that with the plastic saran wrap and then the duct tape over the wounds. Some of the wounds, when I was in there, when they went to go peel it, they thought it was some of the dressing. It was actually his skin that was peeling.
It took police 4 hours to convince Ruby Frankie's youngest daughter to leave the closet she was in when they raided Jodi Hildebrand's home. Police and firefighters sat with her and tried to comfort her. They ended up ordering her some pizza and a drink, and she ended up eating all of the pizza. So they ordered her another one, and she ended up eating half of that as well. They eventually were able to coax her to leave. This is the footage.
You come in, my buddy. I'm a police officer. Are you going for the union here? Hey, you okay? Is this just you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name? I just have one. Where's your sister at? Contact one. You okay? Huh? You doing okay? You don't want to talk to me? Yeah, that's okay. Can you come with me though? We got Jodi out here. You know Jodi? She's outside with us. You take your time, bud. I'm in no hurry. I'm a police officer. Did you know that? I don't mean to hurt you at all.
It's okay to talk to me. Are you scared? What?
You should sit down. It's okay if I just sit here with you. We don't have to say anything. If you don't want to. Okay? I'll just sit here with you. Go through? Oh, it's fantastic. Okay. I'll put this here, okay? When you're hungry, you can eat. There we go. Whew. Thanks, yeah. You're more than welcome to eat. You can eat all you want to. That's on you.
When Ruby, Frankie, and Jodi Hildebrand were arrested, they were actually handcuffed and put into the same patrol car. They were driven the 45 minutes to the prison, and Ruby Frankie claims that's the last time she spoke with Jodi Hildebrand.
Hop on in. I'll help you if you need.
I had a crash on the right side, so my shoulder's screwed up.
Okay. Just be careful then. I'm gonna got you right here as much as I can.
Would it feel more comfortable? Yeah.
Put 2 cuffs on me. Go ahead and step on out. I got you.
So he's gonna.
Come on out, no more.
We're gonna double cuff you so that you have more room for your shoulders.
Okay. Go ahead and just get you back. I got you. As much as I can. Hey, sorry, let me go to the other side. Yeah. Go back. You got it. Yep. Good. Okay.
Yeah, we probably do another
Search?
consent. Yeah.
It's not wearing bra or anything, but I'm just gonna make sure you don't have anything in your pockets. And you're not wearing anything else under this, correct?
No, ma'am.
Spandex? Nothing? You don't remember what you're in? Okay. I just want to make sure that you don't have anything. Just widen the stance a little bit for me. Yep. Thank you. Okay. So I just spoke. You can turn to face me. So I just spoke with Jodi, but you both are under arrest right now for child abuse, and you'll have 2 counts of that: 1 for Eve and 1 for Russell. Okay. For the malnourishment, you guys are in direct custody of those kids. Okay, do you have any questions for me at this time? No questions? Okay, you can hop in.
You got it.
We now have the police footage of the day they raided Jodi Hildebrand's home looking for Ruby Frankie's youngest daughter. Now, the video was quite lengthy, so I cut out the important bits, including the moment police tell Jodi why they are at her home, as well as some conversations with her lawyer.
Open the door! Jodi, I need you to step out.
I have my turn.
That's great. Step out of the house.
No, I'm not going to step out of the
Step out of the
house.
house.
Step out of the house.
Whoa.
We're just going to see if
Whoa.
else. Is there anybody else home?
Wait a minute, how do you come to my house?
Right there.
Look, they come into my house.
Just have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there. I'll explain everything after. Have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant, sir?
Control 12x11. Can you hold the air? We're searching the house.
I can tell you what's in the house.
Okay. Just have a seat right there for me.
Do you have a search warrant?
We'll explain it after this.
You can't just come into my house without a search warrant.
We'll explain everything after this, ma'am. Okay. Well, that's one of the reasons why we're here. So we'll explain after everything's done, after we clear the house and make sure everything's fine in there.
But why are you coming into my house without a
We'll
search warrant?
explain it after this.
But that doesn't make sense. You come into my house and do what you want, and then you tell me you don't have a
No,
warrant?
we'll explain why we did.
But don't you have to have a warrant?
Not at this moment, we don't. We're here on exigent circumstances. And I'll explain it after this, after my sergeant and the officer are done clearing the house. Is there anybody else in the house?
Yes.
2 kids?
There's a little girl.
Just one?
She's right over here.
Okay. How old is she?
She'll be 10 next week.
Okay. She's on this side?
Mm-hmm. I have Airbnb guests over there. Probably scared them to death.
Okay. And they're on this side of the house then?
They're right over there. She's over here.
Can you get through the house that way?
Yes, they just have to go right there.
There's no other kids besides her?
No.
Is it the main bedroom?
It's right there.
How do you get there from the inside?
Walk around the corner. There's a little hall, and it's the first.
It's just around the corner down the hall.
Police department, call out. Police department, call out.
you waiting for me to say something, or? Okay.
Adam, I know you have a flight to catch, so they're just...
Well, so they're in your home because you lied to them about...
Yeah, I've got a police officer standing right here.
Okay.
So, I don't want you to miss your flight, so...
Well, I'm not going to miss my flight. I'm okay for a minute.
Okay.
Have they found her yet?
Yeah, they think there's somebody else in the house. There's not.
Are there 3 children that are supposed to be in this house?
There's one that's here.
One that's here? There's not 3 children that are supposed to be here in this home?
Is there an officer that's close by you?
No, he's standing. I don't know who he is, but yes.
My lieutenant.
He's the lieutenant.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You have a room downstairs that has a safe wheel on the front. How do we get access to that to ensure that there's no one else in this home?
Adam.
They do need to search that there's nobody else, so I think you can give them access to make sure there's nobody in there.
And then you don't have to tell me the code if you just want to open it. We're going to go in and make sure that nobody's else there, and then we'll sit down and have a conversation after that as far as why we're here.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And
Do you want to open it then?
I don't know if I have the code.
Does he have the code
No.
and he can tell you the code, and that's just between you two?
No. That thing has been locked for a couple of years, and I would have to call whatever.
Okay. Is that a panic room or a room where...
It's a room with a toilet, with a sink.
Toilet and a sink, and you don't know the code?
I haven't used it.
Okay. All right.
You got to call the safe company? Is that who you have to
I
call?
assume that's where I have to call.
Okay.
This hasn't been at the top of my priority list.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to put it on speaker? Okay, hold on. Okay, you're on speaker.
Officer, so the other individual, I don't know if that was you, mentioned that you would explain the purposes behind what you thought were the exigent circumstances. Can you tell us those now?
I can't. You'd have to talk to my sergeant or lieutenant about that.
Could you get them, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll talk to his face, but I'm not going to talk to him on the phone.
Do what?
Yeah, no, I can talk to him on the phone. Okay. Is that your attorney? Yes. Okay. Hello, sir.
Hey.
Hey, it's Lieutenant Studley. Hey, so we're not going to have any conversation over the phone. We'll probably do that in person. Is there a time that we can sit down and meet?
Well, there is. I'm getting on a plane, so it would need to be Friday.
Okay.
Could we do Friday?
Absolutely. What time Friday works for you?
Well, could we do in the afternoon?
You tell me what time I will be available.
Jodi, would 4 o'clock on Friday work?
Yeah.
You want Jodi there, I presume?
Yes.
Okay. And you are supposed to announce yourself and explain the purpose. You would at least explain that to Jodi while I'm on the phone.
Not yet, but I can do that with you on the phone. But again, there won't be any dialogue. We received a report of an emaciated juvenile that had duct tape around his extremities that was asking for food and water. And based on that information, there are other people in the home, so we're ensuring that there is nobody else in the same condition. So under that exit sheet C, we've entered the home.
Thank you, I appreciate that,
Yeah.
Lieutenant. We will plan on that Friday at 4.
Okay.
And where were we?
Our police department is 55 North Main Street in Ivins.
Did you hear that, Adam?
I did, yeah. And Jodi,
Yeah, no, we're here.
Okay. Jodi, we'll just plan on 4 o'clock on Friday. And Ruby's on her way down for the children, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, before I hang up, officer, can I talk to Jodi just briefly?
Absolutely. I will walk away and you are on your own. Okay, you should have your attorney on the phone. Okay. I just want to advise you of our intentions. It seems like there's a room we can't get into. We're getting some conflicting information. We're going to go draft a search warrant. We'll be right back, okay?
What does that mean, a search warrant?
What's that?
What does he mean, a search warrant?
I'm just going to get a warrant from the judge.
You're already here, though. I don't understand what that means.
They'll explain it to you when they give it to you. I imagine there's going to be do a more in-depth search of the house. Right now it's just safety and security of the people.
Got it.
Making sure they're okay.
No, I see your position.
Yeah.
That's why I'm crying.
Yeah.
I see why you think this is an issue.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
The pictures showing what Ruby Frankie's children went through at Jodi Hildebrand's home have been released. I'm not going to show you all of the pictures, especially not the pictures that were released of the children's wounds, but I will show you some of the items that were found in Jodi Hildebrand's home, as well as the duct tape that was around RF's ankles and wrists before it was removed. Ruby Frankie's son had basically been hogtied on the floor at Jodi Hildebrand's home. They had used handcuffs to do that, and this is a picture of the handcuffs being collected from Jodi's home. They found several different types of rope. This is some that was found in a drawer at the home. And this is some more rope that was found. Now you'll notice beside it is a container of reddish looking fluid. It had been determined that this was the mixture, the homeopathic mixture that Jodi and Ruby had been smearing on their open wounds. This is actually cayenne pepper and honey. This is a picture of Ruby Frankie's son's wrists the day that he had gone to the neighbor's home looking for help. The shirt he is wearing went down over his wrist, so they didn't see this until they pulled the sleeves up. Now, what you're looking at right now is saran wrap wrapped around his wrists and then duct tape over it. And the paramedics said that the saran wrap was trying to protect his wounds before they put the duct tape over it, and then they would put the ropes or the handcuffs on top of the duct tape. And this is what his poor little ankles look like. Now, this allegedly is not blood. It's the cayenne pepper and honey mix that they had smeared all over his cuts along his ankles. Then they put the saran wrap on top as well as the duct tape. Now, you can see how dirty his feet actually were. He was wearing little socks when he arrived at this home. So this is just from him not being clean or bathed in however many days. After Russell escaped from Jodi Hildebrand's home and went to the neighbor's house, he alerted police that his sister was still in Jodi Hildebrand's home. When police arrived at the home, they found Ruby Frankie's daughter in an empty closet. She was absolutely traumatized and refused to leave the room, so police and paramedics gave her the time she needed. It took them 4 hours to convince her that it was safe to leave this closet. I honestly don't know how much longer these two children could have survived in the conditions they had been living in if this young boy did not have the courage enough to escape Jodi Hildebrand's house and go to the neighbors and ask for help. In this prison phone call, Ruby Frankie tells her sister exactly what happened on the day her youngest son escaped from her business partner's home. She also clears up why she was getting a speeding ticket so early in the morning with a child in the car.
Yeah. I left early in the morning to go to a dentist appointment with Julie. We left at like 3 in the morning, and she called me sometime in the morning, and so I went back down. But when I got to the house, I mean, it looked like the movies. There was a red fire truck. There was a black van with tinted windows. There were 2 ambulances. There were 20 cop cars. I mean, it was.
Did you just sit in your car?
No, I pulled up and found a spot to park. She lives on a cul-de-sac. I parked in the cul-de-sac, and I walked up, and the driveway was just full of cops, and I just walked up to the cops. And they said, "Are you the mother?" And I nodded my head, and so they took me and put me in the casita, and I sat there for a couple hours. I just sat there, and then they were finishing looking through the house and stuff, I think, and some of the guys were coming in and out with pizza, and so I think Eve was still there because the ambulance car was there. I was eating pizza with the police, and then once the kids were taken in the ambulance cars, then the detective came and patted me down and arrested me, and then took me to the courthouse for questioning, which I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't say anything because Lamar was really helpful. Like, if you ever get arrested, don't say anything. I just didn't say anything. And she
How
was like,
did you find Lamar? Was he just assigned to you coincidentally, or did you?
So she has an attorney that she's used for connections, and he said, I only do like business law, I don't do criminal law, but here's a number of 2 people who do that I would highly recommend. And so she gave the 2 numbers, and I got the number from Kevin. I don't know how the numbers got from. I don't know how, but Kevin said, here's your attorney, and this is her attorney, and that was the last time I talked to Kevin. It was a couple of days after my arrest, but so I didn't see Jodi at all when I went to the house to turn myself in. I didn't see her.
Okay.
And I went, and they took me to the courthouse, and the detective was like, I've got all night, we can talk all night, and I didn't say anything. I just said I want an attorney. So I could hear Kevin in the hallway talking, and then he left. And when they took me out of the room, they took me outside and cuffed me and said, again, they cuffed me again, and then they told me you're under arrest and then they told me two of the charges, and then they had me get in the patrol car, and that's when I saw Jodi. I saw Jodi was also in the patrol car, and she had surgery on her shoulder. She couldn't put her hands behind her back, so then they pulled her out and changed up the way they arrested her so she could drive with her hands in front of her. And then we had about a 45-minute drive to the jail, and that was the last time I spoke to her. We were in the back. We didn't say a whole lot. I mean, we talked the whole time, but I don't remember really saying a whole lot. We hummed a couple hymns, and she was still justifying the whole time. She's like, don't worry, we'll have our day in court. And then when we were booked in, they put us in separate cells, and we've been in separate cells ever since.
This story just got even more messed up. In a recently released police interrogation video, Kevin Franke told police that Jodi Hildebrand was possessed. In this clip I'm about to play, Kevin claims that Jodi goes to a dinner and confesses to the women there that she's basically possessed. Now, another family, apparently called the Hannahs, who works for Connections, steps up, takes Jodi into their home, and then Jodi claims they kidnapped her. Just listen.
We went out to like a dinner afterwards, and that's where Jodi really opened up to the women in a private conversation that she believed she was being tormented and haunted by shadow figures every night, and that was spooky. According to Jodi, she was held against her will for 6 weeks and was kidnapped, and she escaped and got out. According to the Hannahs, after 6 weeks of Jodi stabbing herself with forks and knives, cutting herself, and wanting to commit suicide and trying to seduce the husband of the family, they kicked her out. I don't know what's the truth. Maybe a little bit of both, I don't know. But the point is, somewhere around mid-April, Jodi was back in her home in Ivins, and she was a hot mess.
And then it gets even weirder. So Kevin, in this next clip, says that he goes to visit Jodi with Ruby and that he experiences all of these supernatural events. And then apparently Ruby decides that Jodi Hildebrand needs to come and live with them. So she has a conversation about this with Kevin. Kevin says he's not comfortable with it. Jodi and Ruby say that he's selfish. So I guess he backs down and says, okay, fine, she can come and live with us. And then he tells about all these crazy events that happen while she's living with them. Listen.
I gotta say, like, I'm a smart guy. I'm an engineer. I've designed and helped build some really big stuff. I'm a college professor. I can't explain some of the stuff that happened while we were there. Like crashes in the basement while we were talking upstairs, and plates like in the kitchen just flying off by themselves, like full speed, smashing on the wall and falling to the floor like by themselves. I can't explain it, but I saw it with my own eyes, and I don't have any way to explain it other than there's some crazy going on. The moment she showed up at my house, just the weirdest crap started happening. Lights turning on and off, sounds of people walking in walls, and like sounds like footprints going up walls and across the ceiling, and like stuff floating around, and it was weird, and I hated it.
Ruby Frankie's sister Bonnie is now able to talk about what happened between the situation with her sister and Jodi Hildebrand and what they did to her sister's children. This is what she had to say about it.
You're not saying anything about what's going on. That means you don't care. My brain can't even put together its own thoughts. There is no words. And I will not talk about them for so many different reasons. But on top of everything, I will not talk about them because there is no one closer to being my own children than these kids. And yes, I knew everything that was shared in the media before the media knew. And I don't know what's worse, finding most of it out all in one day. You only know what's been approved to share with the media. All of those blocked out spots in the journal, all of the journals that she had that didn't necessarily pertain to the criminal case, all of those, you know a fraction. You know a fraction. And everything that I learned was just in little pieces, just little pieces along the way. So every day I have felt like this. Every day I have felt haunted. I did not see the photos beforehand. So for all of you that have been sending them to me, you really have done something there. You're doing your due diligence.
Ruby Frankie's sister Bonnie has made a video making her stance on what her sister did to her children extremely clear.
I want to be very clear that I do not support Ruby. She doesn't need mercy. She doesn't need justice. She needs a jail cell. And I can't even think beyond that. I believe in justice and mercy, and I think both of those come in time. I think that the mercy needs to lie at the feet of the children, not at Ruby's. And that's where I stand on that.
Ruby Frankie's sister Bonnie did a video where she refers to what her sister did to her children as torture, and I think we can all agree. She also talked about the children and said because of how much fight they had in them while their mother was torturing them, she thinks they're going to be okay.
Me, I. The only thing you care about is yourself. This is not about you. Get off the internet. I 100% know who the victims are. I 100% realize that I was not the one tortured. I see so many comments. Trigger warning, this is difficult to watch. Trigger warning. Or if you need help after seeing this, make sure you get help. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. All these compassionate strangers for each other. But if I say anything about how it's affected me, I'm selfish, I don't care, it's all about me. I know I'm not the victim. I have been directly affected. I can't think of a way that I'm not affected by it. And I know that people will just rip that apart. That's just the reality of it. That's the truth. How can you pretend like nothing is happening and go on posting? I think it's just my defense mechanism. Being away from everyone and everything and turning my phone off is an escape. And that feels good momentarily at times. There's literally nothing I can do. And the reason I move forward is because I have hope that those kids, they showed a lot of fight. They didn't just stop fighting and they kept their fight in them. And if they can do that during their torture, they can come out the other side. And I think and I hope that they will have a normal as they can. This will change them forever. All of them. All 6 of them. And just because all 6 of them weren't in that room, I want the very best for all of them. And they're all gonna need a lot of help.
Ruby Frankie's sister Bonnie has made a video vlog finally being able to talk about the situation with her sister and what she did to her children. And in this video, she specifically wants everyone to know she is nothing like her sister Ruby.
I'm so self-conscious about saying anything about myself because the only thing that has been jammed down my throat is how selfish I am for saying how it's affected me. But strangers on the internet can talk about how this has affected them and they're so sad and I can't believe this is happening, but I feel like I'm not allowed to say any of those things. I physically get ill when my kids accidentally get hurt. I physically get ill when I see their feelings get hurt. I feel like I go into panic mode a little bit. And as soon as I do, all I can see and hear are the hundreds of comments that I've deleted saying, "You're just like her." It's like my main point that I wanted to say was that I wanted to speak to the people that care, because the people that have been mean they don't deserve that time and energy from me. But it's just the reality, and so I wanted to address it. And the only reason that I feel even the slightest bit brave enough to say anything at all or to keep posting saying the nice comments, that just doesn't do it justice. Those that hear what I'm saying without me actually saying it, people that actually care and actually feel bad for the situation and not dissecting it and picking it apart and just understanding that there is so much more to it than what's being shown and said. I think I just had to say something and share a little tiny piece of my heart for those that actually care. And I don't even need you to care. I don't need you or want you, or I'm not asking you to leave nice comments. I don't know. I just had to say something, and I know it's so pathetic to get online and cry, but the whole point was to show how we live, and this is just life. There are so many ugly sides to life, and it's just not always cute. It's not always pretty. It's not always nice. And I just physically couldn't just keep going. It's just all too much. And honestly, I think a big reason that I just keep doing what I'm doing, because there are so many people that deal with so much trauma, real trauma in their lives, and real sadness and real heartache. And you all keep going. There's no other option. There's no other option. If you can do it, I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Why do I feel like I need to say I'm sorry? I know I'm not doing it right. I know I could do it so much differently. I don't know how. I'm just doing what I know how to do. I'm just being myself, and I'm just saying what I'm thinking, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with just trying, I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry for getting on the internet and crying. I don't know. Thank you for being compassionate towards my family and caring about us. And thank you for reading between the lines of what isn't being said between my forced smile. I'll tell you what it does show me, though, is that I really do care about who is on the other side of this camera. I care that this is how other people feel. Different situations, but it matters to me. How other people feel, the sadness that they go through, that matters to me. Deep in my heart, I know that the kids will be okay. I do. I think it's going to be a really long road, but I think they're going to be okay. And I think I'll be okay. And I think my family will be okay.
Kevin Franke is suing Jodi Hildebrand, and I don't think anyone is surprised to hear that. He is suing her for emotional distress and negligence for what she's done to him and his children. Brian Schnee from KUTV News reported today that Randy Kester, Kevin's lawyer, filed and stated 3 causes for action. Number 1, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Number 2, negligent infliction of emotional distress. And number 3 was negligence. Kevin's lawyer submitted a written statement from Kevin Franke, and it states, "This lawsuit marks a significant step in our journey towards seeking justice for myself and my children against the abuses inflicted by Miss Hildebrand. Miss Hildebrand weaponized her authority and professional training to cause tremendous harm and damage to myself, my children, and my family. I'm committed to doing everything I possibly can to ensure that this dangerous woman can never harm another individual again and to seek the long-term healing and welfare of my children." I'm going to read you some of the information that's included in the filing. So for the first cause of action, intentional infliction of emotional distress, it states, Jodi acted with reckless disregard of probability of causing emotional distress to Kevin and to his children. Kevin suffered severe and or extreme emotional distress that was caused by her conduct. Results of her actions and omissions, Kevin suffered past and future economic and non-economic damages, pain and suffering, emotional distress, loss of quality of life, and loss of enjoyment of life. For the second cause of action, negligent infliction of emotional distress, it states Jodi engaged in conduct that she should have realized involved an unreasonable risk of causing emotional distress to the children, Kevin, and others. And the third cause of action was negligence, and it states, she breached her duty of care and of reasonable behavior and conduct. These breaches caused Kevin damages to include pain and suffering, emotional distress, loss of quality of life, and loss of enjoyment. Kevin is entitled to interest on all economic damages, and it ended off by saying that he's seeking judgment on past, present, and future damages, interest, costs, and attorney fee. Ruby Frankie's ex-husband, Kevin Frankie, has finally shared why he did not see his family in over a year when he found out what his wife and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrand, had been doing to his children.
My name is Kevin Frankie, and I am the former husband of convicted child abuser Ruby Frankie and a former client of convicted child abuser Jodi Hildebrand. In July 2022, I was led to believe by Ruby and Jodi that I was selfish, narcissistic, enabling to my children, lustful, and a significant danger to my family. I was convinced by those women and others from Jodi's organization named Connections with an X that to save my family, I needed to immediately leave my home and family and live in a no-contact separation for an unspecified amount of time. For over 1 year, I remained in complete isolation from all but Jodi and some other of the men who participated in Connections, who were in similar situations all out.
We have a new date for Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrand's parole hearing, and I bet they are not happy. Their original hearing date was supposed to be this September 2024. It has now been released that the Parole and Pardon Board has moved that date to December of 2026. Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrand were sentenced in February of 2024 for 4 counts of child abuse for what they did to Ruby Frankie's 2 youngest children. Well, the parole board has now met and they have conducted a scheduling review and decided that they will not hold their parole meeting until December of 2026. The parole board takes a lot into consideration when making these decisions. They said they basically look at minimum sentence and sentencing guidelines. They look at the nature of the offense, victim impact statements, as well as rehabilitation and other documentation when making these decisions. The board has now ordered the Department of Corrections to complete a mental health psych review before the original hearing, which is going to be December of 2026. And they have a deadline on this of November 1st of 2026. They are also requiring that both Ruby and Jodi participate in a cognitive behavior therapy program. So their parole hearing is now 2 years away, and we don't know what's going to happen during that meeting. They could be given a parole date, or they might be told to come back at a later date to discuss. Either way, they are going to be back in court at some point for restitution hearings.